with her big dumb face.
The longest opening sequence.
It's Alice Midlife Crisis.
Oh my god, it's so good, guys.
We're not told that. Yeah, we do. We're not told that. It is written. It is written.
Is that all
Hello.
glitchy for anyone else or just me?
I hope not.
What's that?
It looks fine on my feed. Anyway,
Okay.
welcome to our Barbie world.
Barbie world. In
Yeah.
a Barbie world.
I'm not wrong, right? That
that
song
song.
never played, right?
No, it
It
didn't.
was in the trailer. It
I
wasn't
would
in
have
the movie.
known. I love that
It was
song.
in the trailer? Okay.
It was in the trailer. They had a it was a
Barbie girl
rerun or new version of
in
it.
a Barbie
With
world.
the trailer. Love that song.
Fantastic.
Uh,
It's fantastic.
we-
I
can
love
we
90s
bring-
techno.
Can we bring Kevra in just to take his shirt off? He'll just sit in silence. We'll just objectify him.
let's go party.
Kevra, can we just objectify you? Like you just sit in the corner with a shirt
I don't
off?
think you want to see Kevin right now. I don't know what he looks like.
Yeah.
I
probably
don't know
wearing
what Kevin
pink.
looks like right now.
What I didn't know about
My-
that man is that he is shirtless all day. He's like me. I just always barefoot, and
I
he's
knew
always
this.
shirtless. I mean,
Who
is
I'm,
he? You didn't know
I'm,
that.
Evra?
I'm a hobbitses, so
Kevra, he is always shirtless.
Mm-hmm. So,
Good for
All
him.
day, 24/7.
That used to be me. Now I'm a little bit more self-conscious.
Anyway, guys,
Um,
with this being a big pink, sisterhood movie, just real quick, a lot of yelling last time, just to us,
There will be
As-
more yelling tonight.
as Scaramanga would say, to us. We are. The
Oh, I
best.
should have had my.
I didn't
Oh,
intend for
man.
this to be pink.
Damn it,
It is pretty Barbie-ish.
man!
though.
I should have got food coloring
Oh,
from
it's-
the water. And
It's
made it
vodka, Sprite, and frozen raspberries.
I have this peach vibe Celsius.
Oh,
I'm
that's
gonna,
the
I'm
perfect
gonna mix
color.
that into my whiskey.
pink.
Thank you
Perfect.
for reminding me.
I just
I
wanted
didn't
to
even think
switch
about
it
it.
up. I didn't want whiskey.
My wife brought me a gift. She's bringing it in now,
Okay.
guys. I have a surprise for you.
Get that Barbie girl out of our
This
Barbie
is
world.
The deluxe Barbie house.
Wow.
We're gonna add that to my little decor here. I've got some Barbies. We're gonna
Is
look
that
Barbies
a
today.
is that a collectible or is that like modern?
No, that's not a collectible. This is just the
I
modern
wonder
Barbie
how
house.
different it is.
It's got a couch. They got a couch. Also, what's really cool about this Barbie house, so you can make it into a TV. So this has got like a little this thing right here. You put your phone in it, and then
Wow.
your kids can pretend to
So
like
it's
watch.
definitely
like,
not old.
you
Oh,
can watch.
interesting.
You can like put a TV program on there, and they can pretend like they're watching. The Barbies are
Oh, so
watching
the,
TV.
the kids don't want to play Barbies; they just want to watch TV, like they always do.
Yeah, they can
you
just be
know?
like, yeah, let's watch see, like Barbie's watching TV right here. I've got the
Yeah.
Barbie bed. Let's see what else. We got the kitchen down there. We got a garage. There's also
I just love the house being there and then the booze in
and
the
the
background.
I've also got. It's also got a little. Oh, the elevator's broken. Well, there's an elevator. There's a
Dad's gonna
Barbie
get
elevator
drunk
here.
and destroy the
so-
Barbie house.
Yeah.
So
At least,
I
mean,
yeah.
your daughter doesn't play with brats, does she?
No, I wouldn't let her. I
Are
wouldn't let her
brats-
play
is
with
that
dolls
more like a
that hang
tween
out on
thing?
street corners.
I feel like that came out when we were
No, it's
in
it's
high
it's
school,
like
and that's why everyone's on OnlyFans now.
No, I saw.
Brad led to
I'd
Only-
never seen it before, but I saw this thing. Speaking of what you just said, Nance, I saw this meme, call it whatever it is, some weird new cultural oddity where TikTok chicks, or maybe it was just on TikTok, but it's like a streamer chick will pretend to be an NPC character. So as she's
I've seen those.
receiving tips and stuff, it's like, it's like thank you. Yeah, feed me ice cream. Yum yum. Yum yum.
Oh, I saw that.
So it's like you
No, I
can
saw
be like,
that.
I gave you a taco, and she's like, more tacos are good. Yum yum. And it's this weird sexual thing, and it's like
It's only
I mean,
sexual if you want it to be, but it's definitely sexual.
like frankly, it
I'm
looked
really-
like something that like came out of Japan. Like, how
Like-
just like there's a weird Japanese
yeah,
thing
yeah.
with that, like that's like just straight up Japanese. And but it comes from
Someone-
video games. Like
Yeah, it's
you
kind
know,
of
Somebody
like
sent
I had
me-
seen one streamer who like she completely coded this character who is like a skin over her actual self. And it's not like this weird sexual stuff you're talking about, but it sounds like almost an evolution of that. People make these weird characters and like do
Yeah.
what you're just saying. I mean, some people maybe do it for the anonymity. Like there's some people that like
yeah,
put weird non-face revealing stuff on, but yeah,
bizarre,
some of
man.
it's pretty weird.
It really does come from like the sexualization of like, I don't know, growing up with Sims or whatever, and then that becomes a kink or something. I don't know.
I think it's for the weird anime
I'll
guys.
just take basic cable, just boobs, whatever. Let's get our objectification out of the way before we jump into this movie, I guess. Anyway, you fellas have a good Barbenheimer experience. How quickly back to back did you watch both of these?
Friday night, Thursday night, or Thursday night,
Okay.
Friday night. Thursday Barbie,
saw-
Friday Oppenheimer.
Okay, I
I
called
was in the
Scott.
same exact theater. My wife and I went and saw Barbie on at 9:00 at night, and then I got up, and then
That's
I took my
late.
dad to go see. Oppenheimer at around noon, like 12:00. Same exact movie theater, both in
Okay.
Dolby.
I
So,
just
yeah.
talked to Scott, and Scott did the bang bang. He did the back to back,
Damn.
5 hours.
That's a commitment.
Oh,
I
that's
I
intense.
yeah.
By
Did
himself.
you do Oppenheimer then
No, with
Barbie,
some
or Barbie
friends.
then Oppenheimer?
I honestly don't know. I for some reason I think maybe Oppenheimer second, but
That would make sense.
what a difference between the two movies, though.
Very different.
I'll just lead
Very
with
drastic.
that. But
Drastically different.
and I'm gonna be a little harsh on Barbie, but you know me. So anyway, any other notes, fellas, or should we get to it?
I don't have any notes.
No, I'm ready.
After we start talking about it.
All right, perfect.
Wait,
Hans
are
is
we
ready.
doing Barbie?
Sorry, I'm trying to get rid of Louise B. Where's Louise B?
Oh,
Where's Louise B? Oh, right there. Okay.
I'll do it.
Louise B. God, it is fun going pink. It is a very YouTube look. Like, it looks like I should start taking super chats to like take my clothes off.
Yeah, that's why I didn't go full blown pink, blue, purple for my stream stuff. But
Yeah.
it is a cool look, though. It's like I do
Look at
kind
the
of gravitate to
contrasting
it. 'Cause
colors.
I do really like all that retro
Yeah.
synth wave stuff. But
Anyway, McCurdy, are you done moving around? Because this will
I'm
be
playing
recorded,
Barbie. Can I play? God damn it!
Hey,
He's
go ahead.
playing with-
If you're playing Barbie in the
he's
background,
playing
that's
with his
fantastic.
Daddy Barbie.
This Barbie's asleep. That's how I feel right now. It's just like I want to take a nap. Like, you can take a nap, Barbie.
Yeah, why are you
It's
so
your dream
tired today?
house. I'm just
Okay.
tired.
I mean, Scott has a reason to be tired, but or
Work. It's
pumped
work.
up, you know.
It's work. Anyway,
Anyway,
go ahead, guys.
okay. I'm just gonna take a sip of my whiskey, which that's what I'm drinking, by the way. Huevos. Always the cheapest
Whiskey
whiskey I
with
can find.
Celsius.
Whiskey with Celsius, yeah. So I'm going to be off the walls. I would say that Barbie is one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life, but I think labeling it as a movie would be giving it too much credit. Torture device would be more accurate. In fact, until now, I never sat in a movie theater and actively... Sorry, fellas. In fact, until now, I never sat in a movie theater and actively prayed to be the victim of a mass shooting. What should have been a celebration of the beloved children's doll, you know, a movie vehicle by which young girls would be inspired to get into Barbies and increase Mattel's share price, instead bombarded those young girls with feminist indoctrination that probably confused the hell out of them with words like patriarchy and gynecologist and fascist. This movie doesn't showcase the brand of feminism that simply says pursue a career if you want, maybe at first, but the kind that blames everything that's possibly negative in the world on men, something that would never be tolerated if the opposite was expressed in a film or anything else. And I get it. I get the core idea here. This is a gender swap, idealistic, feminist utopia fantasy movie where Barbie Land is the polar opposite of the real world, where women run everything and men sit around seeking the eyeballs and approval of women. The status quo feminists perceive themselves to be a victim of today. But I guess I just don't understand why this movie was made for adults. It only serves as a pathetic but not surprising revelation that our generation is not only plagued with an overabundance of man children, but an equal number of woman children. Frankly, I feel really bad for actual children that didn't receive a proper Barbie movie in the same way that earlier this year, Nintendo fans finally got a proper Mario movie that both kids and adults could enjoy. There is a bitterness at the core of this film, and that's precisely why I can't stand it. What could have been fun for everyone turned into the cinematic equivalent of the phrase, "I hate men, they're so sexist." If you can't understand the irony of such a statement, maybe I should string off a list of cheap complaints in your face until your brainwashing evaporates. But I guess it's okay because right at the end, the creator of Barbie says it's all right not to be special and to just be a normal mom or whatever. Originally, guys, I will admit, I wrote out a 20-minute rant. I'm not kidding.
I'm not surprised.
And I went ahead and
I'm
spared you
glad
guys.
you could. I'm glad you
the pain.
could.
You could always
hold
put it in
yourself
your
back.
manifesto.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
should
yeah,
be
yeah.
in your. You
Yeah.
could just put that in there. There's some stuff
True.
I agree with. I don't think I completely agree with what you said, but there is stuff that.
Which is
but
why
here's the
I
thing.
cut out a lot because I figured,
Right.
let's try to be reasonable here.
Let's just be reasonable.
Let's be objective
I will
here.
say, if I'm being objectively reasonable, there's aspects of your argument or of your review that I would be like, yeah, I kind of agree with you, but I don't think it's to that extreme that you're putting it. The framework
not
of
at
the
all.
extremity
Exactly
that you
as I
put it in.
expected.
So that's
Yeah.
where I'm at. That's where
Some
I'm
of
at.
us aren't as sensitive as others.
Yeah, where you say sensitive, it's like, do you have to be overly sensitive to register a bunch of bullshit in a movie that like we said
No,
earlier,
but
the
to
I'm
let
a
it
Barbie
bother you,
girl in
yes.
a Barbie. I wanted that movie. I wanted Toy Story, Barbie and Ken for 2 hours. I wanted to laugh, and yeah, I laughed like twice. Big deal. But I wanted to have
I
fun
laughed
with
a lot.
everybody else.
I love this movie.
But instead, it was there wasn't. It was
I'm gonna take this off.
it a lot of times it contradicted itself and was a bit confused, and that's where I'm just like, where's the fun Barbie movie? And instead we were just bombarded with like a little
Charlie,
girl calls her
I
fat
got a
shit,
fun Barbie movie.
So
Well, okay, between you and Nan, between you and Charlie, I think I wrote out what I think is more of like the diet version of what you wrote. Like it's very similar, but I don't think it's as like harsh about the film. It's like
if anybody wants my full rant,
hits on a
send
lot
me
of your
$20. I'll send it to you.
Send it to me, $20. Come
I'm
on,
not
kid,
letting it
say
out.
one.
It's going in the sequel to my book.
Oh my god.
good
Okay,
stuff.
so let's talk about
That's
the Barbie movie
capitalism.
that I decided
this movie.
to make every single slide pink because why not? Like,
Yeah.
why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you do it? Because it's just that's the one thing about this movie. It's just everything has got pink in it. But first off, guys, I just bought my shirt today, guys. I just bought my rank
Oh,
shirt.
that was
bought
you
a
in the
shirt.
Discord, huh?
You can do the same and buy a shirt. We just probably need to get a shirt. I just want a shirt now with Huevos's face on the shirt, wearing a shirt.
Whoa, meta.
I want a meta shirt. So Huevos wearing Dolph humanoids on a shirt that you can buy. And then you do another one.
Okay, just keep
It's like a
doing
shirt
like what
and
I
a
have going
shirt.
on right here. I have like a little recursive effect going on because
Right.
like, the background is then this background. Yeah.
So we do Huevos
Brilliant.
in a shirt. Yeah, that's what we should do. We should do the
Fantastic.
infinity shirts. It's gonna be great.
people
Should
would
just
buy
do
that.
that.
That's gonna be
This
great.
gonna be
Can
great.
we get
That's
away
gonna be
with
great.
that? Huevos will sue us.
I mean, I don't think Huevos will sue us. I think as long as he's getting, his exposure, because he'll have it. It's gonna be great, guys. It's just great. Anyway, let's talk about Barbie. Barbie, or Barbie the movie, depending on who you ask, is directed by Greta Gerwig, written by Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach, and based on Barbie by Mattel. So first off, I'm going to say this. I'm just tired. I'm exhausted. It's been a long week. I've watched now 3 movies within 1 week, having to do 3 of these. So it's a lot, and I'm exhausted. So I'm not going through every
We're only at
little
number
detail.
2, buddy.
It's only number 2 of 3 movies this week, and they're all very charged. Let's just say that. That's the word I'm going to use. They're all very. There's a lot of opinions flying about all 3 of these
Sound of
movies
Freedom
we've seen so
seems
far
like
this week.
ages ago.
That being said, I'm not going to go through every detail, but I'm going to gloss over certain things. So there's probably tons of stuff I'm going to miss. But for those who are watching after the live stream, I apologize. I try to do my due diligence and go as deep as I can, but I can't always get everything. So first off, I'm going to go through a brief history description. So Barbie was created by Ruth Handler, which we see in this film, the ghost of Ruth Handler, and was first launched all the way back in 1959. Ruth developed the doll after watching her daughter, Barbara, play with paper dolls that were distinctly adult. So she had noticed that, again, like this movie describes this in the beginning, where like kids would always play with baby dolls growing up, as far as little girls would play with baby dolls. She was the first that saw, noticed that kids really responded to playing with like, oh, I want to be adult like mommy and dress dress the doll in a way with nice fashionable clothes and things like that. And they were talking about like paper dolls, which were like these little cutouts that you would kind of fold over these clothes, and it was just a piece of paper, and they were like cardboard things.
Right.
And she was like telling her husband, who was Elliot Handler, who is the co-founder of Mattel, it's like, hey, I got this idea for like a adult type style doll, and he wasn't really responsive. He's like, I don't know about that. I was like, yeah. He was like, he wasn't really responsive to it. But then they went to a trip of Europe, and they saw this doll called the Biddle Lily, which is a German fashion doll, and was based off a comic strip in Germany. And it's basically, when you look at that doll, it's almost identical to Mattel. Mattel ended up having to got sued. They settled out of court over this, but of course now we still have Barbie living on. I do like, there's way more history into behind Barbie, which is very fascinating. If you go to Netflix, there's a series called The Toys That Made Us. One of those episodes
I love that
is strictly
show.
about Barbie. That episode's actually really fascinating. They go about like how Barbie was created. There's some of the stuff that's in the movie kind of is also in that, but that goes in a way more deep dive detail about where Barbie came from, how it got started, all the trials and tribulations of the product.
Are you going to mention any cameos in this movie? With Mattel
as far
people?
as the Mattel people, no.
Okay, because
I wasn't going to go in that deep. I wasn't going that deep on this one.
Scooty Scoot just told me that when she compliments that woman at the bus stop, and I didn't double check this. Yeah, I didn't confirm
in
this,
the real
but,
world.
According to somebody who told Scott, so somebody told Scott, told me. Yeah, she turns and looks at an old lady at a bus stop and says, "You're beautiful," and thank you. And all the women in the theater went,
yeah,
that's Barbara. That's
not Barbara.
That's Ruth's daughter, Barbara.
That's not Barbara.
Okay, then it's fake. But
it's not Barbara.
Did you look?
I think I scrolled through that and I did look. I don't think that is her. I think that's actually just another.
That would be adorable, but like
it would be.
And
I don't, and I didn't check this.
I want it to be true because it makes me feel good. So it's true now.
Where's my hat? Where's my metal hat? Where's my metal? Okay, let's just keep going. God damn it.
Take your adrenochrome. It'll help you find your hat.
God, you're making this worse.
I just looked it up. It took 2 seconds. That was not
okay.
Barbara.
So this film is co-written and
That's too
directed.
bad.
Co-written and directed by Greta Gerwig. She's a screenwriter, actor, and director.
Isn't it Gerwig?
Gerwig, yes, you're right.
Okay.
Best known for films such as Lady Bird and Little Women. But Nans, I think you were asking about this before the show about like, oh, this is her first 2 films. Yes, sort of. Nights and Weekends was her first film that she directed, but that was a co-directing project. It was co-directed project, but she's written a bunch of films prior to this, as well as acted in a bunch of stuff. So it's like she's led up to like doing all these bigger budget movies. Her partner, they aren't married, but they do have 2 kids together. Noah Baumbach, who co-wrote the movie with Greta, is also a frequent collaborator with Wes Anderson, which kind of makes a lot of sense with how much there's. Well, he's like sideways. He's like, hey, what's going on? I'm Wes Anderson. But that kind of makes sense with the production design with this film. I wouldn't be surprised if she called Wes and was like, hey, when you're dealing with production design, do you do this or do you do this? And he's like, well, this is what I do. That's my guess. Anyway, Greta has also listed 30 films that inspired Barbie, which included Wizard of Oz, Singing in the Rain, Oklahoma, His Girl Friday, 2001: A Space Odyssey, The Philadelphia Story, Heaven Can Wait, An American in Paris, Woman on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown, Grease, The Truman Show, Mon Uncle and Playtime, Splash, Saturday Night Fever, and The Godfather, which I have no idea how The Godfather ties with this movie, but essentially she was just saying that well, I guess they do mention it in the movie, don't they? But basically she was just saying like all those movies helped inspire Barbie. And I could see certain aspects, definitely like a Wizard of Oz. You see Playtime and Mon Uncle, which is they're based from a French director who's very like, I wouldn't say he does mime stuff. It's just some of the stuff that they do is very like farcical, playful stuff in the movie. There you can see the correlations between those movies. Moving on, we've got Margot Robbie. So she became probably a breakout in Martin Scorsese's The Wolf of Wall Street, but then quickly went on to playing Harley Quinn in the DC films, and also had nominated for her role in I, Tonya. And probably we remember her in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But she's been doing all sorts of stuff lately. She's like, she's great. I like her. She's great.
Yeah.
But she was also she goes. I mean, her first roles were on television. She was on a show called Pan Am, and then I believe she did some television in Australia as well. So she's been around for a long time. I think it wasn't until The Wolf on Wall Street is when people were like, "Oh, this Margot Robbie chick, we should put her in more."
When she showed off
more
some
movies.
bits.
When she showed off her bits, right? That's
Then the
kind of-
U.S. was like, she can come over. She can come over.
Yeah. Man,
So-
we need to see your passport.
But I do think out of all the people that they wanted to have play Barbie, I think she was kind of the perfect fit. And I think at
Yeah.
some point, I can't remember who was the actor. There's a comedian that originally was going to play Barbie, and I don't think it would have worked out nearly as well. And I can't remember. her
Probably
name
would
off
have
the top
been
of my
what's her
head.
name who ended up playing Weird Barbie.
No, it wasn't
That would
Kate
that would be
McKinnon,
my
it was
assumption.
another comedian. No, it was another comedian. I can't remember her name. Off the
If it
top.
was
I-
what's
I'm
her
like-
name
I'm
from like
blanking.
Trainwrecked and stuff.
That's who it is. That's They originally they were
are you
gonna
serious?
cast- Yeah, they originally
Really?
wanted to this, but again, this movie's gone through several. It's been a while. This movie's taken a long time coming.
Amy
essentially, so there's
Schumer
probably
was
a
Amy
different
Schumer,
version.
originally
Amy
cast.
Schumer.
Yeah, they
Oh my
originally they
God.
wanted Amy Schumer, and then eventually they ended up with
How
Margot Robbie.
horrible
I think
would that
I
have
think
been?
Margot Robbie was the better choice.
Oh, by
just do.
far.
Just do.
Yeah.
I just do.
Amy
Next we got
Schumer.
Ryan Gosling, and like looking at his filmography, I mean, yeah, we know it's Ryan Gosling. He's great.
Wait, who?
But then when I look at his
Who?
filmography, who? But when you look
Ken.
at his
Ryan
filmography,
Gosling?
I'm just like, damn it, he's in so much stuff. So
He's
many,
great.
so
Moving
many
on.
great movies.
He's awesome.
But yeah,
Moving on.
personally favorite. He's in Drives, Nice Guys, Crazy Stupid Love.
Love Drive.
But he's been like.
I'd
acting
probably
since
take
he
The
was a
Big
kid.
Short out of everything we see here. I'd probably take The Big Short. I love Drive. but I'd take The Big Short.
Ooh. Big Short
That
and
was your
Drive are
favorite?
both really good.
Yeah. I also like Blade Runner. I like, but what's crazy is he's been acting since like he was a kid, and he was in like Goosebumps. He was in.
like
he
a
was
Disney
in the
wasn't he a
show.
Mickey
kid,
Mouse
right?
Club kid?
Yeah, Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, he was a
Club.
big. Him.
think
He
there's
was like
pictures
right
of him
next
with
with Justin
Justin and
Timberlake
Barbie,
and Britney
Barbie.
Spears and all of them.
Britney Spears.
Yeah.
He was also in a show. You remember the Kevin Sorbo Hercules show that was like syndicated?
Yeah.
There was a spin-off of that show that was like a kid's version of the show called Young Hercules. He played Young Hercules going
Okay.
all the way back then. So it's crazy.
Sweet.
He's been doing stuff for a long, long time.
Yeah, Nico
and
just
then
said
we got
Place
American-
Beyond the Pines. That was a good one too.
Yeah.
Kind of an
it's another
unknown movie of his, Place Beyond the Pines.
I wanted to see that, but didn't.
Yeah.
It's
Not
good.
that was pretty good. And then we got America Ferrera. She's like the one actress in this movie. I was like, I've seen her and stuff, and I just couldn't figure out who she was, but she's best known for Ugly Betty, and then there's another sitcom called Superstore.
I haven't seen
It's
any of
kind of
these.
like an off.
Same.
Superstore is pretty funny. It's kind of like an Office ripoff, but it takes place obviously in a superstore, and she plays kind of one of the main characters of that. She was also in Sister of the Traveling Pants and a bunch of other stuff. But you know what? I'm just gonna move on because you're just like,
Moving
yeah,
on.
she's in the movie.
Yeah.
She's great, but she's in the
There's a
movie.
lot of people in this
And
movie.
then
You know all these
so
people.
yeah. So yeah, let me go through this. So there are too many people to mention, so I'll keep it to the standout ones. We got Kate McKenna, who plays Weird Barbie. Kenna is somebody else. McKinnon, yeah, so you know her from SNL. She was in that one movie, that remake of that one
That
movie.
one
I'm not gonna
movie.
mention. That
Yeah,
one movie.
She was in that show.
Well,
and
she's
then
in
that other-
SNL, yeah.
other movie?
And then we've got
Yeah.
Michael Cera, who plays Alan. And again, like they talk about it in the movie, but Alan was like a doll that was just didn't make any sense to have because it was just like it's Ken's best friend. Like, why would you want to
Yeah.
buy Ken's best friend?
Why
I don't
would a
know.
Girl want to play with. Them?
Yeah. So then, yeah, remember Super Bad, Arrested Development. Then you got Simu Liu, who plays Ken, the other Ken, multiple Kens in this movie,
Simu
but you
Liu.
remember him Shang-Chi. You got John Cena, who plays Mermaid Ken. We talked about him in Fast X. He was also in Peacemaker and the WWE. Is it Ray? Why am
You
I
know
on
they
screen?
wanted
Ray
The
of
Rock.
Timeline.
They wanted The Rock. They couldn't get The Rock.
They couldn't get The Rock.
So they,
But, you
they
know,
fell back.
I think Cena's great though. Like I
Yeah.
really do like Cena.
you know, I
I
like
love
him.
Cena.
I like him, but he's no Rock. You know, he
Mm,
wants
but
to
that-
be.
he's-
He wants to be.
Sure.
I like. Cena.
Then you got
He's funny.
why do I want to call it? Is it Rhea Perlman? Why do I want to say that? That's not her name. Is it just Rhea
Danny
Perlman?
DeVito's wife. That's all you need to know.
Ex-wife.
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 Okay. Okay.
Ex-wife. Yeah, they have been separated for a while. But yeah, and then you know her from Cheers. She just has a very distinct voice. And then of course we have Will Ferrell, plays CEO
Howard
of Mattel,
Stern.
SNL, Zoolander. Lego Movie, which I do think we should talk about in regards to this movie. And then Helen Mirren plays the narrator, who we talked about in the Fast and Furious series, as well as Shazam: Fury of the Gods. So, all that being said, Nans, what did you think of this movie?
I really, really liked it.
Okay.
You're going to elaborate?
No, you said you love it. So do you really, really like it, or do you love it?
I really, really like it.
Okay, so now you're walking your position back. Let's see.
And I would recommend it.
Okay.
I don't know when the last time we did the
Okay.
recommendation thing was.
Yeah, you know,
So
you can usually tell if how we all feel about. We usually end up
Charlie
getting our
would
feels
not.
out
We
about it.
pretty
You know,
would.
Charlie does not want to recommend this movie.
I what I wanted more than anything, Nance, was I guarantee the things you liked were the things I also liked. I just wish the whole movie was those things, like a random, like a war between Kens where they're like hitting each other with tennis rackets. Like, I kind of wish it would have been a little more actually violent. You know, guys pretending to stab each other is kind of stupid. It makes sense in a world where it's like that dollhouse you have behind you, McCurdy. Like nobody actually drinks anything. It's like when you play
the Barbie
House
world
of
is a
Kids
manifestation of
the
kids
play world.
playing.
Yeah.
I
Which,
liked
you know,
everything that was related to the Barbie stuff, as far as
Sure.
when they were in the Barbie world, like that. Pretty much the opening 30 minutes of the movie, I had a lot of fun with. Like that was my probably my favorite part of the movie was the opening bit of the movie, because
that's
I
the
felt
Barbie
like,
movie. That's where it's like, I can't believe I'm watching a Barbie movie. And
I
then,
feel like
and
that
then
would be too much.
kind of
though,
knew.
if that's
Here's the thing:
what
I
the whole
kind of
movie
I
is.
figured that the movie was going to go into the territory of like a fish out of water story. I knew that going in, sort of like based on the trailers and kind of little bits in here and there. I didn't know what the extent of that was going to be, but I knew that going in that we were going to get that. So like I knew, but I loved all of like.
Sorry, I'm
shower,
smirking
no
because
water.
I'm smirking because I just saw that somebody changed all our names to Ken, and I appreciate that. Sorry, please go on.
You're welcome.
That's why I'm
I was
smirking.
gonna
I'm not smirking at the
I was gonna change Nans to Alan, but then I was like, nah, let's just all be Ken.
It's just Alan.
Let's all be Ken. But anyway,
Sorry,
I loved.
interrupted
Here's
you,
the thing:
please.
I loved all the Barbie world stuff. I loved when she comes in and you see her, like the first shot of her feet. It's like her feet are raised, like all the Barbies are, because they're all kind of raised. They're not perfect, you know. They're not flat-footed like a normal like action figure would be. I love that. I love when she gets in the shower. There's no water. I love when she like pours the drink. There's no, and then I love like all that stuff. I loved all of that. I love when they're on the beach and it's like all foam core and you're like, okay, it's like a plastic beach. There's no actual water. Like everything related to the Barbie Land world.
The set
stuff.
design.
Yes.
I loved
that's all great.
but it wasn't just, it's not just the set design, but it was also like, I'm going to talk about Lego Movie a lot in this, when we talk about
As
this
you
movie,
should.
because I think
As you
there's a lot of things to relate between these two movies. But like Lego Movie, if you remember going back to that movie, one thing was that movie's logic and how all the characters talk to each other was the same logic that kids have when they're playing with Legos together. They were like, remember when like Batman's like, give me all the black pieces because I want, I remember doing that as a kid. In the same fashion, I love how all the Barbies talk to each other because it felt very similar to how little girls would play with Barbies with each other. I loved all of that. Like I thought that was great.
And real quick, the whole lesson from that movie is that, as people get older, it's like you have to and this is obviously a very real thing. Like speaking of man children, you have to build it out and then you glue the pieces together because everything has to be perfect and you can't take a piece of the Millennium Falcon and attach it to like what's other like a pirate ship. Like you can't do that. You have to follow the rules and then you have to glue it all together and it has to be perfect. And that's Will Ferrell, who's the father, and then his son, who's kind of motivating the whole story. His whole thing is he's trying to fight back against that, and he wants to use his imagination to build things. It is a perfect movie for Legos. It is perfect. It captures what it's like to build Legos as an adult and as a kid. It's perfect, and that's frankly in my world where everybody of any background, any sex, whatever, any age can walk into the Barbie movie and say, I had a fun time. It would have been just a straight ripoff of the Lego movie. But instead, it's like, we need to hate on you, Char. We need to hate on you because you're a man.
Why
And
would
I'm
you
just
make
like,
a straight ripoff of the Lego movie?
what?
Well,
Why would you?
Let me
Why
toe
wouldn't
the line
you? Why wouldn't you do
Here's the
that?
thing. Let me
not
toe
rip
the
it off.
line. Let me describe, Charlie.
That's what you do with movies is you go, well, it worked with one thing, and so we'll do it with this other thing. Why wouldn't you
Is that
do
what?
that? That's what most movies are, dude.
Nans, I think
A director wants.
Hold on,
to
hold
be
on, hold on,
creative and
hold
make
on.
something
Yeah,
of
but
their
hold on,
own.
pause,
her creativity
pause.
is to inject her politics into it, which I think is you're automatically going to turn off everybody.
I think
everybody.
Well, here's
I
the thing.
really enjoyed
Okay,
it. I was
okay,
fine.
real quick.
Yeah,
real quick.
but that's because it
point,
agrees
Charlie,
with your
to your point with
politics.
the
But
Lego
to make
movie.
it political is to cheapen it. Whereas the Lego movie doesn't. The Lego movie's not like, Hunter Biden touches kids. Then you'd be like, this is a Lego movie. Why are you doing this?
Yeah.
But
No.
what's up,
Okay,
McCurdy?
to your point, and to kind of why Nans is like, well, why do you need to, right? Like, so this was my personal thoughts that I wrote specifically about this aspect of the movie, because me having kids, both my wife and I were like, okay, we're gonna see this movie. Do you think it's appropriate for our daughter to go see? And like after we left the movie, we're like, I don't
It's
think
PG-13.
so. But I thought I definitely mulled over it. And I really thought about like why we felt that way. And so here's what I wrote. I said, movie is really directed towards adults who played Barbie versus kids who are currently playing with Barbies. Film has similarities to the Lego movie besides Will Ferrell. The biggest difference is in both Lego films, the toys, and I say Lego films, there's the Batman Lego movie, and then there's a sequel to that movie. The toys are being played with by children who teach the adults the important lessons, where the film implies in this film, as far as the Barbie movie, it is implied that it's a grown-up rekindling with Barbie, going back to similar times, the simpler times, because she's struggling with her present reality. And you see that in the movie. You see it like that was something that I was like, I understood that, because her as a mom, you see her playing it with her daughter, and she's having a great time, and they're having fun. And then she realizes that like time has slipped by. Like she's no longer playing with Barbies. She's completely against the idea of Barbies. And I do think there's a reason to inject, as you, Charlie, you say, to inject the feminism thing. I just don't think it lands as well as it probably could have landed. And I think if it had landed better, I think people wouldn't have left me as bitter tasted as
Maybe
I felt
restrict
this movie.
restrict it to a couple characters. Restrict it to the daughter or something.
Hold on,
and then that would be effective. But when everybody
but
is
I
doing
said,
that,
but then I said, had this film put the Barbie in the hands of a girl growing up. So say in this movie, because this movie, it's like this woman who works at Mattel. We're implied, we never see her do this other than the flashbacks. So it's implied that she was starting to play with her old Barbies. That's why Barbie started having these weird feelings. So it's implied that that's how that all transpired.
She said at one point, she said, I found the old Barbies and I started didn't she say, I found your old Barbies and I started playing with them? Yeah.
I started playing with them, and she's like, I thought you got rid of them. I was like, no, because here's the thing. There's another aspect to this that I also want to dive into. But so say if it was like we put the Barbie in the hands of a girl growing up, but she is like she is past the stage of when you should be playing Barbie. So it's like my daughter is like, she's around 8 years old, right? Like once you start hitting 10 and 11, girls stop playing with Barbies. You start thinking about other things. Like you're more interested in boy bands and more, slightly more adult stuff. Harry Styles. You're starting to adjust into the things you're going to like and love. And I felt like there may have been room for some of the film's commentary to work in line with little girl. I'm sorry, what did I say? I said, and out of the Barbie's face, there may have been room for some of the film's commentary to work in line with little girls, making it more of a children's movie than an adult film. And that's where I feel like the biggest distinction is that had this movie had a little girl as the center point, as she, like Barbie comes back, and it's a, old Barbie, like Barbie dealing with a little girl who's starting to have that transition. I feel like this movie would have worked better as a kid's movie. I felt more comfortable as been like, I see where the movie's going as far as like the things that we're talking about. Now, here's the thing. I know you want to be like, oh, I hate the fact that they're injecting the feminism. I gotta put my pink
throughout the whole
I gotta put
time.
my pink But here's the problem:
Yeah,
is
you
that
guys, your
Barbie?
hats aren't pink, so it's not funny. You need
It's
pink
not funny,
aluminum. Go get
guys.
pink
We need
aluminum
pink.
foil. We need
All
pink
right,
aluminum
Lily,
foil.
get me
Please.
pink aluminum foil.
Yeah,
Uh,
but like
the
if it was,
thing
if
is,
they
the
would have
biggest difference,
give it to
though,
the girl, give it to the daughter, and it would
right?
have been because like
Maybe
remember in
that specific
Insidious.
actress.
Yeah, but remember in
But
Insidious, you were like, oh, I bet you hated when she said the word liberal, and I'm like, no, characters in a movie can
right,
have a
right.
philosophy. That's their character. They can. And like, not to jump the gun, but even with Oppenheimer, a lot of Oppenheimer is about communism. Oh, Charlie, I bet you hated that they said left wing. No, I'm not like that. I'm not like
No, no,
that.
no.
Like,
I think
like in the same way that
we'll talk about
Oppenheimer's
that
like,
movie tomorrow.
yeah. But Oppenheimer's like,
I'm on the
I
same page.
I
with you
have
on
an
that one.
intellectual interest in different things, and that's
There's
me.
a nuance.
That's me.
I feel like there's
I'm
a
not.
nuance.
I'm not
opinion
Mr.
in
Take a
this.
side. I'm Mr. I have an intellectual interest in different things.
Sure.
This movie, the reason why we're going to keep referring to the Lego movie is because the Lego movie, at the end of the day, had heart, and this like maybe had heart at the last second, maybe, but that's what was missing. What was missing was throughout that kind of like there was if the little girl
but I
was
feel
the
like
only one that
maybe
was pushing the feminist agenda, then it'd be like perfect. What,
it
but
wasn't,
when it's everybody, it becomes preachy, and that's where I get turned off, and I just go, "What am I doing here?"
Okay,
Where's the mass
other thing I
shooter
was
to
gonna
come
say,
in
though,
and put me out of my
the
misery?
thing that I was going to say about Lego and Barbie, though, is I think the biggest difference, and this is why I feel like feminism makes sense for a Barbie movie, is that Lego has always been designed. It's not an American toy. It's been a design. It's a
It's like Danish
I
or
want to say
Swedish or
Danish.
something.
It's a Danish Swedish toy, but that toy was always intended for children of both like
It's
male
from
and
Denmark.
female. It has skewed more male, but over time they've tried to been like,
They've
no,
introduced
this is a toy for
Legos
all
for
kids.
girls,
This isn't a
too.
toy for one or the other. Barbies, on the other hand, have always since the dawn of time.
Yeah.
To say, which I love that.
I'm very curious how many people knew the reference. It's obvious to us, but I'm very curious if there was a poll. Where did the opening of this movie come from? People would be like, I don't know. The genius.
Even
of
down
I
to
just
the match,
know it's a thing.
Yeah.
Even down to the match cut of the baby flying up in the air.
Of course. Well, that's the most
thing. That was
part.
perfect. I love that.
That's the
That
most
was on the
famous
trailer
part of the
too,
whole
but I love
thing.
that.
Yeah.
But what my point was getting at is that Barbie does have the baggage, so to speak, of that lessons, because I do feel like that is where this movie. That's where I think, Charlie, where you might have you're like, oh, I don't like this movie in those regards, because I think that as far as feminists go, there is like this weird thing where you see it in the movie where the little girl's basically obviously she's saying you're a weird person from coming up to me at my lunchroom and start asking me all these questions and thinking we're best friends.
I'm an angsty
that's weird,
teen, and I'm gonna shut you down.
But she's she's talking about how there's such a disconnect in the thought process behind Barbie, because on one hand you're like, you brought but Barbie is women of all, hell, one of these Barbies is a hairdresser, is a dog hairdresser, right? Barbie is all these careers. There's one that's an astronaut and one that's a lawyer and one that's the president, and it's the idea was to inspire little girls to think
yes,
you don't,
but
have
instead
to be
they go,
you don't have to be this,
I can't
you can
live
be
up
this.
to that though.
Right.
So
there's that
the
aspect
disconnect.
to
The
it.
disconnect between men and
Right,
women
but
is
then-
frankly that men don't look at it and go, I can't live up to G.I. Joe. They just play
Right.
with G.I. Joe, whereas women,
Right.
feminists specifically, start saying it's an impossible physical standard to live up to, and you just go, it's a fucking doll. Why are we so offended?
But
about
that's also
doll?
but that's also what it's not just I mean, it's again it's a lot of different things. That's why it makes it such a
but the difference
thing, right?
being exactly, the difference being that,
the big
that
thing,
men don't think that men are just like G.I. Joe is tough, because okay, this is what I say this all the time about Bond. Bond is an ideal for men to strive towards. When it suddenly becomes politicized or whatever, it's like he needs to be nicer. No, he's an ideal to strive towards. Barbie is an ideal to strive towards. If you don't make it, that's fine. And maybe that's what they were expressing at the end. I don't know. But at that point,
there was a moment in the
ready
movie
to
where I
slit my
felt like
throat,
they were on the right track, and then the movie derails it.
Couple times I was like,
really
this is where it turns. This is where it turns. And then the first time that she says, do you guys ever think about death? And because they show the ideal day in the day of Barbie, where she wakes up and everything's great, and everybody's singing about her. And it's like, hey girl, you know, and I mean, I'll be honest. The idea that everybody's name is Barbie and everybody's name is Ken was funny for 30 seconds, and then it did go too far. It was like, okay, we get it. Stop saying it now. But the whole thing, the setup is that like everything's ideal, everything's perfect, and then at the end of the night, everybody's partying, and Barbie's like, "So, do you guys ever think about death?" And then dead silence. Everybody's confused, and I was like, "Oh, okay, cool. Maybe there's going to be some meaning here, and maybe that's the beginning of it. Is that suddenly Barbie's idealistic world is put into question." Didn't really work out that way, but that was the first time that I thought, "Oh, maybe there'll be something here." I think the second time was when Ken, who obviously I got a kick out of Ken being like, "What? Guys can be respected?" You know, like him going to the real world was fun. I perked up. I was like, "Oh, maybe there's some meaning here." He goes back to Barbie Land and he starts teaching all the other Kens how to be James Bond, how to be masculine, how to attract women.
Of course,
and the women start to they're like, "I like Ken now. I'm attracted to Ken. I want to be around Ken. Ken's great." And so what you saw was a reflection of reality, how men and women actually operate. And I thought that there would be a reconciliation. Like I thought that it would start out as, and put it in feminist terms, I thought it would start out as a matriarchy, and then it would switch to a patriarchy. And then in the end, there would be like you know what, maybe Barbies and Kens need each other. And we didn't get that. Just in the end, it just ended up being just straight up like, just switch back to matriarchy. We're back to the beginning. Right. Nobody learned anything. There was no growth. There was no maturity. Everybody just keep being a kid.
That's okay. So this is what I wrote before you had even mentioned all that, because I think that really well sums up kind of what I was saying. But I said, yes, sure. The film has a lot to do about feminism and patriarchy. I think the message gets really muddled at the end. Like the world starts out as an idealistic version of what the world of Barbie, where every woman has a job and
if genitalia didn't exist.
But then she goes to the real world and learns that that's not really the case. But then when Ken changes everything to mirror an exaggerated version of what they and change it back, and then they go back to change it back. But did they learn anything from the other than Barbie becoming human at the end? Say what you will about if you agree or disagree about feminism. But if you were looking at this film in the lens of haves and haves not, let's set aside male female for a second, right? Think about this movie about the haves and haves nots. Like that's a theme that is in a lot of movies. You know, you have a group of people that have all the stuff. You have a group of people who have none of the stuff, right? This movie shows that world in the beginning of the movie. It's just played in a way that through the lens of like, women are great. But when you think about it, it's like Barbie has everything. Women have everything in the Barbie world. Kens, on the other hand, they are just objects to grab on.
I mentioned that in my intro. The idea,
right.
The idea is to flip the script, so it's like maybe that's how women felt back in the day, where it's like, we need to get the approval of men so that we can have resources, and that's our function. And that's been our function for centuries. And then feminism comes along and says, no, we can generate our own resources. Okay, this is America. You can do that.
Yeah,
you can do that.
Hold on. You're getting into hat territory.
No. Dude,
say what you will. Hold on. Say what you will if you agree or disagree.
I'm reinforcing what you're saying.
And has nots, but does it? So it seems odd that the Barbies don't learn that they're undervalued, the Kens, as a second-class citizens. I understand that this is how the film views how women feel in the real world, but would it not have been better to at least acknowledge the equality between Barbies and Kens versus something more akin to girls and boys playing? I don't think it. Okay, I didn't finish this when I wrote it, but basically what my point was is it does feel like by the end of the film that it's like boys and girls are fighting over the treehouse. And it's like, I want the treehouse, and now it's my treehouse.
Oh, it's girls
and then
rule,
the guys drool. Yeah, it felt like that's where
boys
the
rule,
movie
girls
ended.
drool.
And my wife even felt the same way. She was like, because here's my viewpoint, right? Like I know you might people disagree about feminism, but my viewpoint is I think it's not irrelevant. It's irrelevant to whatever. But my viewpoint at least is I feel like men and women should have equal playing ground. I feel like we should work together to do things, but I don't think we need to be fighting over we shouldn't be bickering. I hate when
it's
people
not a
bicker
zero
about
sum
dumb
game.
stuff.
That like
Right.
like men and women
I just wish that
it's not a
like the end of the
zero-sum
movie.
game.
But here's the flip of this, right? Like the movie does a really great job of explaining, and I know it sounds like it's preachy, sure, but I feel like women understand where America Ferrera's character is coming from when she gives that speech to them, and she's basically saying like, look. Being a woman is fucking hard. It's not easy. We have to do this. We have to do this. But we can't do this because then we're criticized for this. I was sitting there, I'm like, yeah, I understand that because I see it. I see the frustrations of my wife when, I say something and she's frustrated because she's like, I had to do this for this thing and I get this. So I like, seriously, I was like, I understood where she's coming from. I had a moment of like, okay, I get it. I understand why it's hard. But
Life
I
is
think
hard.
the problem is, hold
response
on,
is
life is hard.
life is
But
hard.
the part of the problem is the movie doesn't give that equal treatment to the Ken as enough because it's like
Yeah.
the end of the movie is like wraps things up so quickly. There was just like really she's breaking up with Ken. She's like saying, like, look, I don't like you like that. Like, and that's where the movie also gets muddy because now we're introducing another layer to this whole movie where it's again. I know, Charlie, we talked about this. Like, we wish this movie was a movie for like I could take a little girl to, and I could have enjoyed it the same amount.
Yeah,
But
Lego movie.
what becomes weird is because now it's like, okay, now this is a movie about relationships, about heavy themes of patriarchy and feminism, and we're doing this. So then it's like, okay, she's breaking up with Ken, and then she's like telling Ken, it's like, well, Ken's like, well, I don't even know what to do because my whole purpose in life has always been to have a relationship with you. That's like literally why they created Ken in the first place. Like, what am I supposed to do here? And she's like, you just learn how to be you. And I'm like, honestly, that isn't a bad thing. It's just mostly like maybe you need to work on yourself. You need to kind of reflect. You need to not think of me in a relationship. I got that.
Just
Ken
go
where I
is
feel like
behaving
where
like
I
a
felt
woman
like
the whole
where I
time,
felt like what it
like,
could have the movie
that's
could have
the
done
thing.
an extra step. There's two things I think the movie could have done. I think you and I agree on this. I think the movie should have ended where they realized that, like, yes, this is Barbie Land, but I do feel like maybe we need to really consider really working together and having a more like nuanced an idea of like how men and women work in the workplace, having mutual respect for each other, not putting people down, which I feel like this movie really harps on putting people down for, what's between their legs. And that's where I felt like the movie could have done a better job of being like, oh yeah, you're a woman. Well, you're supposed to be in the kitchen. And of course, like the movie does an exaggerated version of this, but like there are subtle things that I even think we do in a real life
Yeah, like
where I don't
the
think we think about
construction
those things.
crew, and like a guy comes up and spanks you on the
True.
ass.
And I think we should
how
have
often does a woman have a guy come up and spank her on the ass? I'm gonna go ahead and say not that often. Does it
that one
happen?
was
Yeah, sure, it probably
but
happens.
I have
but I'm gonna go ahead and
I
say
have
like stuff
seen
like
it in
that is
real
where you're like, I'm
but Charlie,
rolling my
I've
eyes.
seen it in real life
you know.
where I've been walking down the street and I've seen guys do things like that where
Sure,
it's like,
men
dude,
are
come
men are
on, like
fucking
that's a
animals.
little far.
Men are
Right.
animals.
Right.
I get
I
it.
get it. But my thing was my 2 cents thing was like I wish the movie had ended in a way where we were saying like, look, we already went through this whole thing where like women are supposed to do this and this, and there's a lot of expectations on it. And I think the idea is still there. Again, I think it's just muddy, is that while this object of this is an ideal version of what women should be, and while this James Bond is an ideal version of how men should be, I feel like we shouldn't worry as much about trying to be this exactly as much as I think some people get over it. Like they get in their heads like, I have to be James Bond. I have to be Barbie. We don't have to be those things. But the movie does say it. And I feel like it doesn't stress the fucking point enough. American Ferrera turns to her daughter and says, like, look, I know the world's not fucking perfect, but we strive to be better. And that's the part of the movie where I felt like it was like, that should have been the message at the end of the movie. But we didn't get it because now we're backtracking to like, we're going to backtrack. This is still Barbie Land because we got to go back to the status quo where I felt
we have
like
we have to defeat the boys and take back the playhouse.
That's where like that's the things that I felt like that was muddy. Like that aspect was muddy.
Like again, where Lego Movie had that clear lesson in Lego Movie was like, you know what? Sometimes you can loosen up and you don't need to glue everything together and you can have fun, and it's like it was a classic story about an adult kind of reconnecting with their childhood, not being a man-child, but reconnecting with their childhood, which is an important step for anybody. Like you have to start as a kid, then you have to someday become an adult, but then still maintain kind of the let's say appreciation of a child. Like that's
Because
the
if you're a
full that's
parent,
the
then you
full
have
cycle
to
of being a
right.
human being. You know,
But when you become a parent, you have to understand it's like kids have these feelings that you had as an adult, and you have to remember like they're kids. They're not adults. They haven't matured in that regards that you have. So you either have to teach them, you have to show them how to do those things, and you have to appreciate the things that they can learn you. I think the thing that this movie may have been missing also is just like and it does it. Here's the thing. The movie does it. It just gets really muddy when it comes to the end and how it portrays it. Because again, the Barbie situation is like, it's like the kids are like, can we have people on this court? And there's like, you can have one person on a low court. And it was like you could have, the movie could have done better.
Again,
Like, that was
that's
when
my
the movie I
point where
thought could
it's
have done
like,
better.
that's my point is where it's like these days, right? People are, it's like, how do we fight racism with more racism? How do we fight sexism with more sexism? It's like that. No, that's not the answer. More of the bad thing. Two wrongs don't make a right. So why are we pushing people to commit more wrongs? You know, that's where for me, that's where like, I'll say that I used to be like you guys. I grew up watching the same stuff and with the same understanding of things. And I used to say, like, I didn't used to say, like, I could looking back now, I could be like, yeah, I used to be a feminist, or at least I used to sympathize with the feminist cause. But then once I entered the real world, I started to see what it actually was, because I'm like, well, wait a second, what are y'all fighting for? You won, like, you won way back in the day, and now you can do whatever you want. And what I started to see was this pattern of anytime anything goes wrong in a feminist day, they just blame sexism. And it's like, that's not healthy. It's not healthy to see everything in your life as oppression. That's just, it's like, have you ever had a friend where you can't be around them because anything you say, they take it the wrong way? And that's what started to happen in the workplace. It was like, it's like, I didn't get the promotion. I'm being oppressed. I got a flat tire. It's the patriarchy. It's like, no, you can't see everything as oppression. And that's why, for me, watching a movie like this, it just instilled, just in the same way that in the last couple episodes, I keep bringing up Straight Outta Compton, where I'm like, they made up an instance of racism to further push this idea that the world is uber racist and blah, 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 I don't think it's good for society. And then I watch a movie like this and I'm like, there should be a reconciliation at the end. It should be a movie where because there's only two different kinds of people in the fucking world, men and women. And there should be I mean, both of you are married. There should be a fucking a bridge between the two. There should be you know what? We're at the end of the day, we're different. We drive each other fucking nuts. But there needs to be a reconciliation. And that's a message that does need to be instilled in every generation. Otherwise, it breaks down. And that's what we're seeing. I mean, the amount of like older women that I saw at the theater, like older, like wearing pink head to toe, but like covered in tattoos and piercings. And I was just like, this is what am I in for? And then I go in, it's a big feminism movie. And I was just like, I don't appreciate movies like this and what they provide for society, because they're just bitter at the end of the day.
I'm waiting for Nans to talk because he's got a big gulp.
I agree with Nans though that when it's like Ryan Gosling's dancing and it's goofy and it's fun,
I think
the whole movie should have been
Barbie Land was different than what you guys thought it was.
What do you think it was?
I thought it was so. Presumably, these toys haven't been played with, so they're just living out their. We are what we were made to be. We are this character being stereotypical Barbie, stereotypical Ken, living in stereotypical Barbie Ken world where we just go to the beach.
Right.
So that didn't bother me. It didn't strike me as commentary on this or that. And then when they returned to that, I could see McCurdy's point to where like, oh, there could have been some growth in that. But in my eyes, they just returned to Barbie Land, where they just returned to being Barbie Ken, stereotypical Barbie Ken. I didn't view it as a feminism statement.
Yeah, I mean, dude, undeniable. I mean, objectively, the whole movie it's about feminism in word and in deed. I mean, the word feminism, I think, comes up
about a
within like
girl's
the first
toy.
like 30 minutes. No, it's like they explicitly. That's the thing. anybody who hasn't seen it might be like, oh, that's Charlie's interpretation. No. It is explicitly, they say feminism within, I don't know, within like a couple minutes they say it, whereas like SB's saying, SB brings up Legally Blonde. I kept thinking of Legally Blonde throughout this movie where I was like, that's what I want. I really would have enjoyed a Legally Blonde-esque movie, or like Barbie breaking into the real world is an interesting, fish out of water. That's an interesting story. Lego movie, like frankly, exactly what would be expected. Let's call it the safe route. I would have been fun, but you know how today everything's all about inclusion, right? Well, then why don't you include everybody? Why do you have to demonize me? And that's the thing. Well, you're a dude. Yeah, but can't we all go to a movie and enjoy it together? And that's the sad thing. Lego movie, anybody can walk in and enjoy it and get something out of it. But with this, it was like the whole thing of the going back to Barbie Land, and the Kens start to act more like masculine men. And suddenly all the women they want to be around them and they find them interesting. And all of they bring a real world feminist back into Barbie Land. And it's like, this is terrible. We need to shut this down. And it's like, what's so bad about that? Again, to you, you guys, both of them, the mother and daughter.
But
you
then
two,
they turn. They start chilling out towards the end.
But you two as married men, what is so
Am I wrong?
about the Kens and the Barbies suddenly getting along and having some attraction? But it's like, no, this is bad. They're being brainwashed. So it's like we need to break their brainwashing with more brainwashing. So then they start filling them up with I
also don't think
did we mention
they were
the Cure?
brainwashing anybody.
No, did we?
Yeah, the Cure was basically explaining how women feel and think every day.
The Cure
and
was
like taking that realization, like,
complaining
oh yeah,
about how awful life is for women, allegedly, right? Which again,
but it is. I mean, like
life's
that's
awful
for
everybody.
Right.
But
saying life is awful for women
that's where
isn't saying life isn't awful for men.
Yeah, it is hard. Like, and it's like, again, if
you can say
that's
one,
where I feel like
without
we're going to
saying
go in
the other isn't
circles.
true.
But it's so heavily implied, Nans. It's not. I swear, it's not me being sensitive. Because at the same time, it's like, well, in the real world, all the jobs are taken by men, and men are worshipped.
But I don't even think that the Ken's version of the real world,
without me going, I get it. You have this bitterness towards men. It's not. I just don't think it's healthy. I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's right. That's the thing. It's not me being sensitive. It's just like an onslaught of, this is how awful men are. Men, I hate when a man plays a guitar for me. It's like, take every little bit of romance ever and demonize it, all the way down to that. The classic romantic movie, or the classic romantic moment in old movies is like the "Let me show you," right? They showcase that, where it's like, I don't know how to play pool, let me show you. And the guy comes up behind her and he like helps her play pool or tennis or golf or whatever. And they play it up like it's a bad thing, right? But that's like a thing that chicks used to do, where it's like, I'm gonna play like I don't know how to play pool, and then he's gonna, and I'm gonna give him a window. I'm going to give him a window to seduce me or like to approach me or whatever. Like it's a thing, but it's a thing that used to be deemed sweet and like part of a flirtatious process of getting together. But then the feminists come in and demonize it. Why do they demonize it? Why do they feel the need to demonize romance? Well, because they're bitter. I mean, that's the only fucking answer there is. And so that was that whole segment of the movie was these women suddenly don't care about their careers. They care about hanging out with Ken. What's so bad about that? And then so it's like, we got to wake them up. We need to instill them with a bunch of bitterness so that they wake up from the brainwashing. And it's just like, all of this messaging is
clearly
bad.
Bitter as well.
How am I bitter?
This
you just
entire
keep going
rant.
on and on about how much you hate this movie for like the thing that you're just like, you're saying. It's
Charlie,
not
there's
about
two
this.
ends
It
of the
is about
spectrum.
this.
Barbie movies
And I know you're
on one,
telling us,
and you're
like,
on
Charlie,
the other.
I
I'm
know
not,
you're saying
guys.
Like
No,
you're
no,
in the
no.
middle, but
No.
you're not.
You are bitter if you actively want to see men and
I
women
don't
split
think,
up.
but yeah,
If
but
you
I don't
actively
okay,
want to see men and
have
women
you
split up, you're
actively
bitter.
thought
Your
in
bitter
a
things aren't the
Charlie,
way they
have you
were.
What?
other
Okay,
than
Nance,
other
how am I
than
bitter? No, let
equality?
Nance talk. How am I bitter?
You just
How am I
said you're
better?
upset that men can't help women do things. You're acting like all women did that all the time back in the day, and all men were waiting for that opportunity
I
all the
didn't say that,
time.
Nance.
You act like the women in
Putting
Chicago that
words
you
in my
used to
mouth,
work
Nance.
with are extrapolating. You're extrapolating that to all women.
Okay, guys, wait.
Nance,
Let's just
no,
take
stop
pause.
putting
Pause for a
no.
second. Both of you
Let
guys.
me
exactly what he
respond.
just
Hold
said.
on. No. Both of you pause. Because I know you guys are getting heated. We're talking about a movie. Okay, I get it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we're gonna go in circles. Okay. Charlie's gonna go about like why I didn't like this movie for feminism. I haven't really heard Nan's like, what did you like about the movie? Like at least have like a positive spin on like the things, the aspects of this movie you liked, because there was a lot of filmmaking things outside of the story stuff,
Everything
outside
about
the
it, the
script,
music, the
that I actually
costume,
really
the
liked.
set design, the acting, it was all great.
Like one of the things I liked Helen Mirren as the narrator. I also liked how meta they used that, where it was like there were times like one of my favorite
I
parts
don't
of the
like
movie
meta
was
stuff,
when
but whatever.
I liked when she well, like one of the things I loved was when Margot Robbie's having her darkest night of the soul moment. She's like she's basically having her lowest of the low, right? And she's like, I don't feel pretty. And then Ellen Mirren's like no to
Yeah,
the
Margot
screenwriter.
Robbie
Like,
is a
this
horrible
the
person to cast for
like
this.
why would you you're like that
Yeah.
to me I thought was hilarious. I also liked when the music would do like Nan's, you're talking about the music. I liked when the music would, you're just normally in a movie, it's just like, yeah, you have everything is awesome. You have the everything is awesome song in this movie, and you're just
Yeah.
listening. You're like, okay, yeah, it's just vibing with like the feel of what the movie is. And then I'm like,
And as guys, I'm sure we all liked
and
I'm
then the
Just
movie
Ken the most.
commentates.
The
Yeah, but
I'm
then the
Just
music starts
Ken.
commentating on what's actually going on in the scene. I think it was like
Yeah,
right
yeah.
after she's like, "Have you guys ever thought about death?" And then of course we get the needle and all that stuff. But then it's like the music's like, "Okay, let's we're a dance party. Like, let's not talk about that." So I liked that thing. And then like the overarching stuff about the movie is like outside of how I feel messy, how they deal with Kens and all of that stuff, because I do feel like that again, I feel like that stuff's messy. I do like that the movie does kind of reach a point where it's like it's about a mother and a daughter, and they rekindle over this toy. I like how at the end of the movie, it should have at least it goes on a really roundabout tangent of doing this, but it's like it's about a woman who is very naive. And it's kind of reminding you of Wonder Woman, right? Like that movie is another, like you could say it's a highly feminist movie, but like that movie's
No, it's
about a
well
woman
done.
who has a
I
very
like that movie.
idealistic. That movie has a very idealized version
Feminists
of what the
hated that
world's
movie.
like.
just for reference, feminists hated that movie. So just
I
saying.
don't know any feminists who said they hated it. I know a lot of people who said they liked it. But
okay, I'll
first
say
one was
the
okay,
media.
every other
I'll say
one was
the
bad.
media feminists who are like the craziest
Sure.
of the crazies,
Sure.
which is
But
to be
what I
expected.
thought, where I felt like this movie had correlation with that movie, was that like that movie starts off with a character who's very idealistic. Like she has a very idealistic way of how the world works, and it's very like, well, if I kill the god of war, I will stop all of war. And
Yeah.
it's just like,
Very
okay,
naive.
you're
Like,
very earnest, very
she
naive.
nailed what it was like to like. She nailed being naive, where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, because that's the youth all the time is like, if we just kill all these people,
Right.
everything's gonna be perfect.
But
And it's
in
like,
this
no,
movie,
life's
at
not that
least-
simple.
That was the turn in the first act where I was like, yeah, that's I like this, where it's like it's this idealized version of what the world's like outside of this world, and we are the saviors of humanity. And then like she gets her shit rocked, and then she finds out like, wait, that's not the case. I liked that, where it's just like she has this idealistic idea of stuff. She's naive. She basically learns like, no, this is what the real world's like. And she's like, oh my God, this is terrible. This world is awful. And we do the broad strokes of it, of course, where it's like she comes back and learning from
first thing is that a
America
bunch
Ferrera.
of guys are like, I'd fuck you in the face because you have titties. Like that was the first thing that somebody said to her.
Right. And then
like,
there was
okay,
Charlie, there
okay,
was another. So going back to another movie that also reminded me of this movie, because it does play into the Tati, which is the French filmmaker who did Mon Uncle and Playtime, plays into that farcical stuff, because I do think it was weird that like we get the very over the top farcy stuff in the Barbie land, and we go to the real world and we still get it. And like especially like the one scene where like Will Ferrell's chasing after her, and then they're like, "Where's the card key?" And we're like, no one's smart enough to be like, let's just jump over it. It's like they have to get the card key to go through the door and everything. So it's like that stuff was kind of fun because after I realized like, okay, this is like an over the top thing. But I was thinking of Beau Is Afraid because Beau Is Afraid was a movie that has like this really over the top thing of like what the real world's like, but it's not like that. It's just a very exaggerated version of that. And so we do see that in this movie where like even when like because Charlie, like, you and I we talked about like how we talked about in this movie about how like you would never see a guy slap a girl's ass, especially at Venice Beach, like hell, especially Venice Beach. Like, are you kidding me? But like you would rarely ever see that. Like you would never actually see that.
It wouldn't happen all the time, but it exists.
Okay, but this movie is like an over the top, but the real world is even over the top.
People get hit by lightning. It's no different. It's
but it is a movie.
Like and I do think the movie. Are you saying that racism doesn't exist? And you go, okay, yeah, somewhere there's some guy raising up his right hand and saying Zig Heil. Like but that is as rare as hitting the lottery. It's so hard to. It's so difficult to find that nowadays. Problems have to be made up. That and like I wrote I know I'm always appealing to my book, but I wrote a parable to start off the book about it's called what I call it, something like the army or something like that. But the idea is that there's this army walking around, right? They just had a final victory. They're wandering, they're marching. They just had a final victory. They just took out their final bad guy. The enemy's dead. And they all turn to the leader and they say, hey, so we're done. We won, right? Can we go home now? And the leader is sitting there and they're like, oh, shit, I didn't think of this part. If everybody disbands, all of my power goes away. Shit. So they quickly think up a new problem. And they tell everybody, wait, no, there's another bad guy. And they're over there. We got to go get them. And in that sense, they maintain their power. So I know generally feminists would say, oh, there's all these problems. There's all this sex. There's a constant war going on. But I don't see it. I mostly see a lot of like seeing sexism in under every rock and, in every shadow and essentially just making up problems so that those in power, like those who make a movie about feminism, like Barbie, can continue to have power and influence by fighting what is essentially an imaginary war. And that's kind of why I'm like, wouldn't we all be better off with a movie that we can all enjoy? Just like, again, just rip off the Lego movie and it would be fun for everybody. But no, it's got to be this thing of like this supposed problem that they go to the real world and the men have all the jobs, right? In the Barbie world, the women have all the jobs. And in the real world, the men have all the jobs. And again, a lesson would be learned. There would be maturity if it was like in one of those worlds, there would be some kind of growth or whatever. But we don't get that. We just get like you said, it's like we run the Supreme Court again, and maybe we'll give you like a low level position, Ken's. Again, it's fighting sexism with sexism. Nans comes in and says, you're bitter. And I'm like, dude, no, I like to think that I'm here. I'm the only guy who is like, hey, everybody should be treated equally. And I'm like, oh, great. And then I go out into the real world and it's like, no, you're not treated equally. It's like you're a guy and you're white, and that's where it's like, if I'm bitter, it's because in the real world, you are still judged by your genitalia and the color of your skin. I don't like it. I wish we could get over this shit, but apparently we can't. Apparently we always have to have somebody to point a finger at for all of our problems, right? And that's what bugs me. It's like it's depressing because it just proves this terrible fact that we always need a scapegoat. And it's why genocide happens. It's like the Jews, they are causing all the problems. Like we could kill all the Jews. It's like, no. That's not the answer. That's not the answer. But we always have to have a scapegoat. And so that's what this movie moves
doing this very
towards.
thing by complaining about feminism so much, though?
I'm saying that feminism has nothing to complain about. If everybody,
but you're complaining about feminists.
Okay, dude, do you and I have complaints about the world? So we develop a thing called masculinism, and all of our problems, we can blame them on women. No, that would be absurd. So why is it okay that women do it?
I don't know. We can if we wanted to.
Thank you. Thanks, Nans. Moving on.
We can if we wanted to, and they can if they want to, and they do.
It's not right though. It's
You
unfair.
you can write your book. Everyone has a right to express themselves.
So it's okay that people that women group up and blame all of their problems on men. That's okay?
They're allowed
Well-
to. Legally, they can.
Yeah, but does that make it right? I don't care about it being legal. I'm not saying throw feminists in jail. I'm saying, is it good for society to demonize half of the population? Is that okay?
I don't think you can
Right.
say that that's
Well,
exactly what
Charlie,
they're
let me
doing
just-
either.
let me- okay, hold on. Just to Nan's defense.
Yeah,
sure
I
about
don't
that?
think you can
You sure
speak
about
to
that, Nance?
feminism
Hold on.
all that well.
Hold on, guys. Just to
You're
Nan's
not a
defense,
woman.
Charlie.
What a great argument, Nance.
Charlie,
That-
you're not a woman.
Charlie.
We're in an intellectual space, and you're saying that I can't have certain thoughts or beliefs because you
You
have
can't
to be a woman
understand
to
their
know.
point of view
Oh,
as
sure,
well as they
Nance.
can.
Oh,
Charlie,
'Cause you're not a
Charlie,
woman.
Let me just,
Oh,
Charlie, let
oh,
me just put
wow.
it this way, right?
I don't know.
Do
I don't
you
know
have
what it's
your,
like to be black or Hispanic, or I only know what it's like to be white because all white people think the same, all men think the same, all women think the same, all black people think the same. Everybody just is what is between their legs. That's ignorance, Nans.
That's not what I
fucking
said.
ignorance. That's what you said.
That's
That's
not at
exactly
all
what
I
you
said.
said
Anyway,
to me.
Hey guys,
I said
guys,
you're not
just
a
to let
woman,
you
so
know,
you can't
hey
speak
guys,
to their point of view.
stop, like I got an important
You
thing.
just restated what I
announcement.
said.
K1 just wanted to remind you guys we have a meeting at 9 p.m.
Meninist.
Tuesday for the Minimist. We have a 9 p.m. meeting for the meeting. But anyway, can we just
Yeah.
let's
Yeah, we're gonna
guys,
wrap
let's
this up quick. We got our masculinism meeting
We
where
got-
we're gonna complain
got-
about how
let's just
women
move
cause all the
on
problems.
real quick, guys. But let's talk about this list because I did actually, when I was after thought about it a while, I was like, my initial thought, right, was somewhere near Super Mario Brothers movie because I do feel like, again, I think Charlie, I know you were very hard on the movie, but I do think this
Hate
movie
Super
does
Mario
have.
Bros.
Here's the thing, I do think like the end of the movie does at least. It's again, the ending is muddy. I think the ending is muddy. Not even talking about like the viewpoints, the political viewpoints of the movie, but the ending is muddy in how it expresses itself. But the one thing it does sort of right is that, like, someone, I think I even watched somebody describe it as a reverse Wizard of Oz because it's her it's Barbie becoming a real person. And you can see that as like, it feels weird. It's like, why is Barbie becoming a real person? But again, the overarching thing that probably would have worked even better if it was just all kids could go see this Barbie movie is that, you know, as children, we grow up and we learn that the world is not like what we think it is. And then we become, and we're like terrified by rational thought of like all of the things that we're worried about, whether it's men, whether it's other women, whether it's having a job, whatever it is. But by the end of the movie, you know, even Ghost of Ruth Handler comes out and it's like, look, lady, I get it. Like, we're not going to be perfect. But at the end of the movie, she's like, it's fine. You can be regular Barbie. You can just be a normal person.
You can be
it's
a
okay.
mom.
Like, we're all human. And so at least I think at the end of the day, the movie does land, but very clumsily, because I think the Ken stuff and all that stuff is very, very messy. But at least it sort
I
of
want to
lands
go
on
back
the
to
feet
Barbie Land.
of Barbie, though.
My point of view is it's girl play zone.
Right.
Right? So that's how girl play zone would be. Kens would
Right.
just be Kens and Barbies would be ruling the world. That's
Sure,
what girls
but like,
are
Nan,
gonna
and
do.
I thought
that's the
about
point.
Nans. I thought about that. I did
And
think
then they
about
go to
that
the real
at
world,
one
they come
point.
back and they're like,
Right. We
this
got
is
to make
still
Barbie
girl
world
play
to still be
zone,
Barbie world.
but I just want to be me, not Barbie.
Right. But
Sure.
the problem is, Nans, it's like speaking from like a movie standpoint, if you're just thinking about like this as like any other movie, right? Like their characters have to have some kind, generally speaking, movies tend to do this, but they usually have some kind of growth or something change in the movie.
There's
And
not a
this
whole
movie
lot of
does
growth.
have it. The problem is like you have to express that growth throughout everything. And it's very weird when
It's called
the
an
end
arc.
of the movie.
Yes.
Yeah, you have an arc, but like the end of the movie, Barbie has an arc. The character of Barbie has an arc. She grows. She learns like I can't be this thing that I'm supposed to aspire to. I can't be that. And Ruth comes out and says, "You don't have to be that, honey. You can be."
What is
just
she
a
trying to
person. You can be
aspire to,
human.
though? That's the thing where it's like
It's like the idealistic idea of a woman, but then
was-
she realizes that she has to do all these things that a real person has to do because she's woken up to the idea that like the Barbie world is not the real. Because it would be like if we okay, say this was G.I. Joe the movie, right? It would have been the same thing as like yeah, me and him guy is awesome. Yeah, fuck yeah, we can drink all these beers, we do all this stuff. But then you get to the real world, like, oh shit, I gotta go to work. I gotta pay the bills. I gotta take care of the kids. I gotta,
Dude,
like
pitch
I gotta
that to
do all this stuff. Like you gotta add all this shit to your real world life.
Yep.
And then you're like, oh, dad, damn it, I can't fucking do this. I'm like, it's okay. We're all dealing with it. Like I'm dealing with it.
Yep.
So
But
like the movie has an arc. The movie does land somewhere. Again, I'm just thinking, and I know Nans, you're saying, but that's the Barbie world. I'm like, right, it is. But the problem is they use that as a framework so that Barbie that's her world. And so her world is like, this is the perfect idealistic place. And by the time she gets to the middle part of the movie, she's like, but that idealistic version of the real world that I thought it was isn't what it is. So because we do some weird shit where she changes that real world, it's like I get why in one version of a script it's like you got to change it back to the normal thing. But like okay, take for instance, I'm gonna throw this random shit out here, but like something like fucking My Little Pony, right? In a My Little Pony story, the land that My Little Pony inhabits is this perfect castle land, right? But what happens in the story? Oh, some evil thing comes and destroys the land. What do the good guys have to do? In any story, we've got to change it back to what it was. We got to, make it better. The problem is this movie's version of it is very tied down to certain ideals. And because when we change the thing, that is also tied down to certain ideals. And it gets really weird when you have to change it back, because then you're like, well, wait, did we learn anything from this other thing? Not really, because now we're, and I hate quoting Charlie, but Charlie's right in saying that, like, yeah, this is like we're fighting racism with racism, because that's kind of how it feels at the end. Outside of that, the movie still sticks some kind of Barbie landing where it's like, well, Barbie's realizing like she has to be this real world person. So yes, My Little Pony references, you're welcome. But I was gonna say
Patterson would be
above...
proud. No, actually, recently, real quick, like total random segue. I recently hit up Patterson because I was driving with a sister of mine, and for the record, I have 4 sisters, which I'll just throw that out there and let y'all interpret it the way you will.
You didn't grow up a woman though, so
I've had people claim that because I have 4 sisters, I know women better than anybody, and I've had people say that's his excuse for secretly hating women. So I guess every time I hang out with my sisters, all I'm doing there is sitting there steaming about how much I hate them. But anyway, so
I would think
so I'm
be
driving
married and have kids by now. Then
I'm driving with Riz, sister of mine, and I exposed her for the first time to the idea of the brony. Do you guys?
She didn't know about
I know what a brony is.
Yeah, so she didn't know about bronies.
Patterson's a brony, right?
Okay. Hang on. Before we slander him?
He is. No, I think self-admittedly is.
No. Listen. Right? No, please listen. I hit him up specifically because I was like, I hit him up on Marco Polo and I said, you need to tell my sister specifically about the life of a brony. And she was like, you're fucking with me. There's no way that this is a real thing. Like, there's no way that being a brony is a real thing. So let's just backtrack real quick. Being a brony
does his wife support his bronyism?
Well, okay. So you're getting ahead of me because
I gotta know.
I don't want to slander Patterson, but I gotta lay this out. So being a brony is being a middle-aged fan of My Little Pony, and it's these guys who shamelessly it's almost hard to talk about because it sounds like you're talking about Sound of Freedom again, about all these like perverts talking about like, oh my God, did you check out the recent, like there was this big deal about the royal wedding, and you would say the royal wedding to bronies and they oh my God, the royal wedding. So Patterson, if anybody remembers Patterson, the royal wedding was something between 2 of these ponies. They got married or so. I don't know, man. I don't know. But all I know is that My Little Pony is a show where there's a weird, awkward fan base of middle-aged men who love it, and they call themselves bronies. And I'm telling my sister this, and she's like, I don't believe this. And I hit up Patterson.
Oh, you're talking about the Crystal Empire?
Who
and when they got married in the Crystal Empire?
Thanks, Brian.
I know because I have a daughter. I'm gonna go grab some My Little Ponies. I'll be right back.
Okay. So the whole brony phenomenon, Patterson, I hit him up and he was like, look, I'll tell you all about it, but I'm no longer a brony. And I was like, oh God, like what happened? What happened? And
I got
brony,
one stuck up my ass.
dude. The brony thing apparently just devolved into a Sound of Freedom type of situation where he was like, dude, I can't call myself a brony anymore because one of the bronies, some big name in the brony world, he like committed some mass shooting or something, and then there was like at the same time there was like all kinds of like brony My Little Pony porn going on where they called him something like
Well,
it
that's
was
not
like
surprising
No,
because
not
being
surprising.
a brony is like a step away from being a furry or whatever.
Yeah, but it was called something like Clip Clop or something. Oh God, it's this porn called Clip Clop, and at that point Patterson was like, I'm out. Like I am not. I wash my hands of this. I am not a brony anymore.
Surely that's existed
you
the
know.
entire time.
I probably because of what is it, Rule 32, where like if it
32
Murphy's
or
Law of
4 or
porn,
something like that.
yeah,
Brought
32 or
some
34.
Barbies.
If it
Brought
can
some- I got some
be,
Milo
see, look,
ponies.
there's McCurdy. McCurdy's officially a pervert.
like- Like
Okay, no. My understanding of the bronies, right? My
Yeah.
quick understanding of the bronies is that I watched the show with my daughter. The show's run like different iterations, so like they've had different versions of My Little Pony over the years. There was the 80s version, and now there's a new version out that's like CG now. But there was one version that came out that was written by Lauren Faust, and it was very popular, and it ran for a really long time. They even made a movie on it. But that version had like, just like when you watched it, you were kind of entranced by the characters and how funny they were and like their interactions and all this stuff. As much as like Charlie, like you're a huge Lord of the Rings fan. Lord of the Rings has it's a huge world building thing. Like there's a lot of aspects to that world. In the same fashion, I think when it comes to bronies really like, one, they like the dialogue in between all the characters. It's really funny and fresh, and it kind of has a little skew of like, if you're an adult, you pick up on things, not like sexual things, but it's just like kind of funny quips that adults would say that wouldn't necessarily register as funny as for kids. And I think that's part of it. And then there's also the world building aspect of it, where it's like, it's this vast lands of Equestria where all these ponies live, and each pony kind of has their own little thing that they do and all this stuff. So I think I see why it like.
How much have you watched? How much have you seen?
Fair enough. Enough. I haven't watched everything, but I've
fair
watched
enough to understand brony.
Enough to understand what it is and
McCurdy,
why I think people.
Fair enough to think they're sexy.
To your point about the weird stuff,
McCurdy, enough to know what Clip Clop is.
I don't. I've never heard of Clip Clop.
Okay, good.
But I will say I've never heard of Clip Clop. I've never heard of that. But there was
join the Discord and we'll post all kinds of Clip Clop.
There was a clip of a fan at a convention, and like again, when they have these My Little Pony conventions, there's not just little girl. That's where it becomes weird. It's like there's not just little girls. There's like 20 and 30-year-old dudes that are going to these conventions. Reselling all these Barbies, right?
Repost this here.
That's where it gets weird. Well, there was somebody there who actually like asked one of the voice actors about the dark side of the fandom, and she was like, I am not even going to go there. Why the fuck are you in this panel? Like, get the fuck out, kind of thing. So yeah, when it comes to what,
oh my God, like Sound of Freedom, not human trafficking, but like pony trafficking to get like Clip Clop made.
It's like
Speedy
Charlie,
hotels.
I'll put it this way.
Oh my God,
Charlie,
like Sound of Freedom 2,
I
liberating all these ponies from making Clip Clop.
I think
like
when it comes to,
can you imagine the My Little Pony crossovers with real world ponies and men?
When it comes to the fandom of something like My Little Pony, I think the problem lies in the fact that you have a thing that was meant for little girls, and then you have this other fan base, these people who love this thing that was meant for little girls. So when you have conventions, that's fucking creepy. Like I remember years ago, there was like an anime convention. And the problem with anime conventions is like you have little girls that are in junior high and high school that are into Sailor Moon, and they're into more of the like a specific female type of anime. But then you have boys who are much older, like they're in their 30s, and they're into another aspect of anime. And so when you have conventions, it's this weird dissection of two different groups of people that probably shouldn't be in the same room together. And that's where that whole thing gets weird. But I did want to segue to this back to Barbie, because I did want to mention this, which I think is interesting, is that like when we talk about Lego, Lego is played mainly by kids, but adults nowadays, I think, it's more socially acceptable to play with Legos, because Legos
Oh
you
yeah.
can put on your wall. You can put like you could be making,
They
I
have a
made
lot of
the
sets
Millennium
that cater
Falcon.
to
Right. So
adults,
they have
like
an adult side.
architecture
Right.
and other stuff.
In the same way, I think Barbie kind of does have the same market as far as that, but I don't think it's as like relatively known or as relatively highlighted nowadays. But people still, if any antique shop you go to in America, I swear you're going to find some collector Barbie that somebody bought from 10 years ago that's going to be on the shelf, and it's going to be, maybe it's based off a movie, maybe it's some elegant dress or something, but there are people that are still out there that buy and collect Barbie much in the same way that people buy and collect Lego. And I do think like you could see how that could, again, like back to what Charlie, you were talking about, like what if they had done this but Lego Movie? I could see how they could have gotten there, but I feel like they would have been repeating too much of Lego Movie. But I just wanted to point
But I
that
don't
out
think
because I do
anybody would
think
have
that's
cared,
kind of
dude. I think people would have walked out being like, "That was great," like it's
right. But I feel like it would have been too on the nose to have been like, oh, what, you're taking the Barbies out of the box kind of thing. Like that was it. Like I like that's where
Yeah.
I'm going with that. It's like I feel like that would have
I
been
honestly
too on
want
the
to
nose.
know what little girls thought of this movie. Honestly, I want a pollster
Did
to
little
be like,
girls see it?
I liked it. It had like the Barbie world and it was cool. But again, I go back to a combination of the Lego movie and Ken and Barbie from the Toy Story films, which would have been like those are great moments in the
I
Toy
forgot they're
Story
even in the
films.
Toy Story movies.
Yeah, but they're hilarious, and it would have been that was my hope. Like that's why I said it at the beginning of this. I'm a Barbie girl in a Barbie world. That song wasn't a part of this, and that's the movie that I wanted, because I'm not like dude, the amount of times that I've had like women in my life that aren't my family, not my immediate family, that they're like, "Have you ever cried?" And I'm like, I always laugh every time I hear that. I laugh because it
Have they not
implies.
seen you watch Lord of the Rings?
Well, that's the thing. Nobody sees me watch Lord of the Rings because I watch Lord of the Rings by myself, because it's like, do you ever see that College Humor sketch where it was like girls don't fart, girls don't burp, and
Yeah, and then they poop in the
woman
thing, and
goes
there's like
into
it's pink poop.
no, she goes into a machine. She goes into
Yeah,
a machine,
I've
and
seen
like
that.
all of her farts and shit and everything comes out at once. That's me every year watching Lord of the Rings, and by the end of it, I have photo. I sent my sisters. I was like, hey
That's
guys,
funny.
I just had a Lord of the Rings day, and I'll never share the photo. You guys, like seriously, send me $1,000, and I'll send somebody the photo, because I know nobody will pay that. But I look wrecked. I look fucking wrecked. And that's because I think Lord of the Rings is one of the best stories ever told, largely because it has to do with sacrifice.
Will you say what one moment gets you the most? Is it you bow to no one?
Dude, I mean, come on. It's like, there are so many, but
But it's not gonna- if
the
there
first
is
one,
one,
the first
start
one
crying.
the first one that comes to mind is for Frodo. That's the first one that comes to mind. But it's fucking throughout. It's like constant, and that's where it's like it all comes out in that one day, and then like I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good. But it's funny because I recently watched I watched Titanic with a girl, and she was like, have you ever cried in your life? And I was like, not since I was a baby. But that's what that was always the funny
Were
thing.
you doing this at the
Those
same
are
time?
yeah, exactly. Like, those are the assumptions that like people that I worked with back in Chicago. Those are the assumptions that have. And I was like, dude, like I'm a human being, But as we've talked about with Bond, the whole idea is that like the essence of a man is to essentially hide that, not because it makes you look weak, but because it's like taking a shit with the door open. It's like, if you gotta have a cry, go have a fucking cry, but just like go off by yourself and get it out. Like, you gotta get the fucking poison out. Like don't jerk off in front of me, dude. Go find a fucking closet somewhere. And that's whether you like it or not, that's kind of definitive of manhood. We're way the fuck off track. Maybe I'm overcompensating for the fact that I'm surrounded by pink and I'm drinking peach and whiskey. But But like it's I think I'm just gonna stab right at it. My lowest. I'll just start with my lowest for this movie would be just above Transformers. That's my lowest.
What's your highest?
I haven't even thought about it because I assumed you guys would compensate
okay.
for that. So
I'm looking at the list. Yeah, I think
everybody's commenting for Frodo. Like for Frodo comes to mind first, but it's like it's seriously it's like 12
Frodo
hours.
Makes me
like,
well up at all.
It.
I think you about to know one more.
For me, it's when
for
Sam.
Frodo.
My moment is when it's like him and Sam are on the. It's like I carry the load, like that. Like
wait.
Share,
well, okay, hang on.
Blow your load.
Hang on. Share the load,
your load.
or you can. I can't carry it for you, but I can carry.
I can't carry. Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Okay,
that
big
moment,
fucking difference between those two moments.
Share the load.
Just saying.
Blow
what
your
about
load.
when Frodo's like, I gotta go on my own, and Sam's like, of course you are, and I'm going to.
Charlie, you were saying, okay,
yeah, of
back
course,
on topic.
yeah.
Did you know that he steps in a glass bottle, and
he cut his foot open? But it's that's the thing is like my whole point in telling a story, which was like 20 minutes ago, was that there's this assumption where it's like, you think you're a big tough guy, you never cried. I'm like, everybody cries. I've said that in the Bond episodes. Everybody cries, but that doesn't mean like specifically when it comes to men crying. I think I got laid one time because I cried. I got laid one time, but generally speaking, it's not going to do you any favors. Like,
I don't think I
okay,
want to get.
did you guys?
I don't think I want to get laid for crying.
Did you guys ever see Bedazzled? Did you ever see Bedazzled?
Is that
Bedazzle?
Is that the one with hold on, Brendan Fraser
and Elizabeth Hurley?
And he's like he sells a cell to the devil. Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, and it's
I
actually just saw it for the first
original
time.
version of that.
I
saw the original version of that.
Original version.
Yeah, that's a remake.
Oh yeah. Well, the Brendan Fraser
the
one. Yeah, it's not Fraser. Apparently, it's Fraser.
Fraser, whatever.
It's a shit. Mr. Ghostbusters, help me out. It's
Bill Murray.
No, who directed it was Harold Ramis. Harold Ramis directed it. Who I think my favorite comedy of all time is Groundhog Day. So he also made Bedazzled. That's like one of his like later movies. And one of the great part about that movie is that it's Brendan Fraser wishing all he wants is to woo this chick that he works with. And so he keeps like, he's like, I wish I was this. I wish I was rich and powerful. And then that doesn't work out because it's a devilish trick, right? Like we talked about endlessly in Quantum of Solace. But one of the best segments is he reads her diary and she's like, I just want a man who's sensitive. And so he says, I wish I was the most emotionally sensitive guy on the planet. And then the scene that he goes through is he's for some reason he's like redheaded. He's like super ginger and he can't stop crying. He's like, the sunset is so beautiful. And she's like, yeah, we've been dating for 3 weeks and it's been great. I love how emotionally available you are. And then these bros come up and they're like, hey babe, can you throw us back our football? And she ends up eventually like leaving with the Beach Bros. The point being that it's kind of like the rant I went on about like, why is it that James Bond is attractive? It's not about being the most sensitive guy. It's not about being the most macho guy. It's about having a balance of all of these things. And then at the end of the day, bobbing and weaving through like the fickleness of what women want at any given time. And that's why relationships between men and women are infinitely complicated and not easily stated. But at the end of the day, it's a pain in the ass. That's why the eternal phrase of can't live with them, can't live without them is a thing. And that's why I don't like movies that don't abide by that. Like we need stories that say, no, men are a pain in the ass. Women are a pain in the ass. We're all pains in the ass. We're all individuals but we should try to get along. Divorce, ugly. It's an ugly fucking thing. Marriage, it's a beautiful thing. and that's where, like, that's why I get annoyed at what was it, Dungeons and Dragons, where they don't have any romance. Like anything where they set up a thread of romance and they don't pay it off, because at the end of the day, those are the types of stories that we need. Those are the types of stories that shape society in a healthy manner. And call me bitter if you want, Nans. I don't care.
That sounds so limiting and like censorship.
Okay, call it what you want, but what I'm saying is that there's
Let people create what they want to create. You don't have to agree with it.
Nance, you're clearly not hearing what I'm saying. So I'll just end it right there. So where do you want to fucking rank this?
I wish you would start off that way all the time. Like, all right, guys, where you want to fucking rank this?
5-minute episodes.
Okay. After both of you guys have gone back and forth, I did come to like, I think it should go here, and I have my reasons. I think this is a fair assessment, because Nance, you really like this movie. Charlie, you really didn't like this movie, and I'm gonna go with the Scott answer and say it's somewhere in the middle.
It's somewhere in the middle.
I think, but I have
more
a
pink,
kind of
some water.
No water. There's no water in this movie. What are you talking? It's plastic.
No, there's water right there. There's
more
water
pink,
right there.
More
That's
pink.
water.
That's fake water. More pink. More plastic. Okay. I would like to put it. Here's where I think it should go. I think it should go right above Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I think this movie, while yes, the political, in whatever you want to call it, the message of this movie comes across as muddled and maybe doesn't agree with everybody. And again, it's not a movie for kids necessarily. It's more of a kids. If I'm just saying, okay, it's a movie and sure, it's for adults, whatever, fine. But when it comes to that, it doesn't quite 100% stick the landing with both feet, but kind of with one foot. And I do think that the inventiveness of the filmmaking,
that foot flat?
It is. Yeah, it's a flat foot because she's human at that point. She's a flat foot. It's not a Barbie foot.
Like a 45-degree foot.
It's a 45-degree. I think Indiana. Here's the thing. I think the movie at least ends on an arc that I can. Part of it I can get behind.
No pun intended. Every time you say arc with Indiana Jones, you gotta say no pun intended.
Or, dude, that's a double meaning because you got. Well, that's an arch, not an arc. That
arch. Same thing. Arch.
I was saying an arch, like an arch in your foot.
Yeah, same thing.
That doesn't make sense. Anyway, I think right above Indiana Jones, because I do think Indiana Jones has a lot of missteps in the way it is made, especially that kind of drag the movie down. And there's times where that movie gets really sluggish and it doesn't really work. I think this movie's way more inventive in the inventive things and the colorful things, and as far as how fun and creative it can be. Those things shine and excel in this movie, and I do think it does have a message. I think the message gets all fucking wonky as shit towards the third act, but I do think at least the overarching thing of you're growing up, things change, you have to deal with it, become human, everyone's dealing with it, that at least stays there, and that at least I can get behind. That's where I'm like, probably behind that. The reason I wouldn't rank it higher than The Machine is because I do think The Machine's a little more grounded, and like it's a story about a father and a son reconciling with like how each of them have been raised, and realizing like, yes, you're going to pass your sins to your father, but you still, at the end of the day, he's your dad. I just feel like that one's a little bit cleaner as far as how it ends itself. This movie, it's like that ending is kind of like, wait a minute, what? This movie, and also, I think when it comes to the movies below it, it's just way more fun and creative in how it approaches a lot of stuff as a filmmaking medium than I think a ton of movies that are higher on this list do. Like last week, I harped on Sound of Freedom, not last week, on Wednesday, I harped on Sound of Freedom for outside of its messaging and story. It's just not very much of an interesting movie outside of the first part of the movie because it doesn't really do anything. It's very limited. Sure, it's limiting on its budget, but it doesn't do anything creative with the medium. I think this movie does it in spades, where a lot of other movies, like as much as like even we praised, and I think most people would praise Spider-Man Across the Universe for the way it approaches the medium of animation. This one approaches the medium of filmmaking in a way that some people are kind of scared to, where we're not going to do realism. We're not going to do what we'll talk about tomorrow, which is Christopher Nolan's more kind of realistic or trying to go really heavy on the realism. This movie does the opposite. It's like, let's go fantasy, but do it in such a fun, colorful way as far as the set design and how we're going to approach this movie. And we're not even going to use, I mean, they do CGI, I think, but it's not like we're going to create CGI Barbie characters. Everyone's human, and we're going to base that around the costume design, the production design. I just think that's, I think that's a fair assessment. That's where I'd put it, right above Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
Cool. Yeah, I think that
I can see that. I can't
like,
see
Nance,
it below
did you ever
Super
say
Mario.
Nance? Did you put a
No, I didn't.
Where you at?
I agree it should be above Super Mario. That's for sure. I do not like that movie, and at least that movie didn't try to say anything or do anything, right? It was just Super Mario the movie, if I remember correctly. Like,
And I know, Charlie,
like,
your extinction's going to be like Super Mario Brothers movie was the more fun movie, and like
No.
like kids and adults
Like,
could have gone in.
maybe that's accurate because again, guys, like, generally we find the spread, and right now the spread is Indiana Jones to, I said, above Transformers. So like
I pretty much agree with McCurdy.
So yeah, Indiana Jones, I think, was once again, though, I would love to see a list of every year. This is our first year, 2023.
Right.
I'd love to see every year. Is it that family is just a prevalent theme because that's part of everyday life? Or is 2023 just coincidentally a lot of family? Like, this is another movie that has family themes.
I think my theory is that it is, if you're appealing to a mass audience, what are things that are going to get the 4 quadrants in the door? And family is something that we all contend with. I mean, yes, there are outliers with people who don't have
just
traditional
humans
families.
and relationships.
Humans, relationships, families, those are
exactly
all things.
Like, is it such a prevalent
those are all
theme
things we all deal with.
time?
So those are going to be the stronger themes.
But like something
that you
like
want to put
Shawshank Redemption comes out. I don't think Shawshank Redemption is about, or like The Matrix or whatever. Like, those things are
Oppenheimer is not necessarily about family either. Like, that movie has its own.
He has a family, but it's not necessarily.
We'll talk about it tomorrow.
Family.
We'll talk about that one tomorrow.
Yeah, my point being that, like, it's just been this oddity that so far most of these movies have been about family. Anyway, so back on point. I'm again. I said above Transformers. That was my lowest. You're saying Indiana Jones. For me, like, I'm gonna not fight you guys too hard because we're in the right realm so far as like the below the middle. Like, sounds like we all agree on below the middle. I might be compelled to fight a little bit for Indiana Jones because it's fucking Indiana Jones. Scream is, again, for the billionth time, Scream 6 is a very fucking weak Scream movie. And this is a movie that clearly people put a lot of effort into. And again, Nance, you and I have disagreed a lot tonight, but like, the things that you like, I also like. To the point where I wish that was the whole movie, was the things that you like. I wish it was the whole fucking movie. That might be the only thing I might fight for is like Indiana Jones is just, at the end of the day, just a more enjoyable movie. Because personally, this is where I accept my bias. My bias is, as I've said, perpetuating what I think is like a social contagion, which is feminism, which had a purpose back in the day, but the war is over. The war is over. The feminist armies should disband, and feminism should be left in the past, but it generates too much power and influence for it to ever go away. That's why I don't like it. But if you're gonna make a movie that's your core theme, I guess go ahead and do it if you want. But it's like it just makes it limits your audience in a very stupid way. I'm willing, though, to set aside my bias and just say that, like, I suffered through this. I seriously, like, I'm not kidding. I was sitting there and I was like, wouldn't it be great if somebody came in and shot me in the face? Like, if somebody just hit me as hard, like, afterwards, I was like, can somebody hit me as hard as they can with a fucking baseball bat? I would be like, just give me Indiana Jones and I'll give you guys Scream and Mario and Ant-Man and Renfield and all that shit. But like Indiana Jones was enjoyable regardless of its
Was it?
shortcomings. Dude,
I
I
will say
like
this.
It was kind of a mess.
but I mean, I would say this movie's a mess. Like but Indiana Jones had like here's a story.
This movie,
We're gonna follow
for
the
me,
story from
Indiana
all the
Jones
way to
is
the end.
long.
Whereas this one was messier. Again, I want to put it below Magic Mike. You know, that's me.
here's why. This is why I think Indiana, like above Indiana is perfect. I do feel like, again, like for me, I know you were like, oh, I want someone to shoot me in the face. This movie triggers me. I don't like this movie. My feeling was I saw the movie and I enjoyed most of it because I was like on board with this movie for like first half.
He's frozen.
Thought it was great. I was like, great. We're getting into the story. I'm on board. I get where this is going. I
Yeah.
like this. Then
I was like
it
this.
wasn't
I was like, let's do something. This might be great. But yeah.
I had a lot of fun with all the Barbies. Again, I said, like, I had a lot of fun with the Barbie stuff. I even liked when they went to the real world, and even if it was slightly over the top, that didn't bother
thought
me
it was
because then I
funny
realized like the
throughout,
whole
too.
movie is kind of like that.
I
liked
fell
all that. And
asleep
I
during
could
Indiana
see,
Jones.
and again, this movie doesn't play by normal it's not like realism rules. This is more of like a dream type movie. This is more of like a fantasy. I mean, yeah, again, when I talked about like the influences, this movie is a lot more like American Paris or Singing in the Rain, where it doesn't play by real world standards. It's more of a musical. So I understood all that. I was like, okay, I'm still on board with this. The moment that left me a bitter taste in my mouth was the end, when it was like, we changed all the Barbies back to normal. But then again, I also thought it was weird when all these Barbies were brainwashed under this patriarchy thing, because it didn't quite, that aspect of it didn't make quite sense to me. I was like, okay, they have fell under the spell of the Kens. But I know, Charlie, you were saying like, oh, it's because they're sexy, but I'm like, I just don't understand how you get from one to the other with
Can
that.
you imagine
So
if they had to
that
have
was
each,
the beginning
no,
of
like
it.
if they had to have each of those women start performing their roles again, that snapped them out of it. But no, it was literally complaining about how hard it is to be a woman, and it's like,
right. Well, okay. Aside from that, but then it was like, what left the movie left me more of a bitter taste in my mouth, because again, the thing that really kind of irked me was just Barbie world doesn't go to a let's talk about equality, let's not talk about feminism or misogyny, let's talk about just let's be equal. It doesn't end there, and that's what really frustrated me about this movie, because I felt like it was really leading up to that and we didn't get it. And then of course it like sidelines you with Barbie becomes human, and then after rewatching the movie and thinking about it, I was like, okay, I see why Barbie becomes human. I see how this movie is an allegory of growing up. I got that aspect. So it's like, yeah, this movie does try. It's just that little ending part to me didn't land well. But like Nans and I liked it a lot more than you did. But that's why I feel like where it's landing as far as Indiana Jones goes makes sense. I think with Megan and Missing, I feel like those do a better job with their endings.
Like where you're placing it just above Indiana Jones, below the Machine, to bring the Machine into this, is Machine has very similar themes that are fulfilled, and they're carried throughout. And that was kind of the thing. Like I to be honest, I called Scott before this show, and I was like, Scott, I need you to talk me off the ledge, because I'm like ready to put a bullet in my head. And he was like, well, here's what I took from it. And it honestly sounds just like the Machine. If the machine, Barbie, though, kind of lost, it didn't have as much of a through line as something like the Machine had, which from the beginning is about father and son relationship, and at the end is about father and son relationship. And then you have a B story in there about the Russian woman and her relationship with her brothers and her father. It's all there in your face. Whereas with Barbie, it's a little messier. And that's where like Nans, you bring up all the stuff about like cinematography and production design, like all those things are there for me. And I've always been consistent on this. That's a cherry on top. I want a consistent story, but I also want there to be that incredible cinematography and production design on top. But just appealing to those things or like a cool dance number isn't enough. And so I think I think Below the Machine and above Indiana Jones, if you guys if that's where you're
let me talk about
landing,
Indiana
I'm cool
Jones
with it.
again.
I'm cool
Wait,
with it.
talk about Indiana Jones again, though, real quick. It's just like, remember, I think one of the sticking points for Indiana Jones was that we felt like the story between him and his goddaughter just like didn't gel very well, and she
Yeah.
felt like a very
She was
messy
messy.
character. Like
She
felt
her
like a
character's
character
messy.
that like
Yeah.
her character felt like they were intending it to be one thing, and then somebody changed it through a draft and it had to be another thing. And then so like we never understood 100% understood her motivations. It was like, I kind of get the idea of what they're wanting to do with this, but it's like it doesn't lay out very cleanly. And I also do think, again, like they really, Disney was really harping on like, we got CG face swap thing, we got to show this shit off, and it was like it really kind of takes you out of the first half of the movie because you're like you're so like, because again, like I know we like to talk about I know like you're talking about like story's king, but like when you have things that are like jarring and take you out of the movie, it's like that's not helping you engage with the story.
Yeah.
So.
For me, Barbie did have a pretty clear through line though. Like, so she starts seeing the effects of existential crisis and goes to the real world to track her down. The whole like Mattel HQ and them trying to get her, I don't understand the point of any of that.
Other than Will
that's
Ferrell's
where
money
Ferrell
to
and
bring
all of
him
those
into
guys,
it, and
pointless.
all that.
Like, so it's not perfect. It's not super clean, and it doesn't make 100% sense. It doesn't bother me so much that like they didn't all hold hands at the end and say Barbie and Ken are equals. That doesn't bother me as much as it bothers you guys. But
like, it's not that. It's a reconciliation
for me.
Like it would have been lame if it was welcome Christmas. Like if they all held hands like that. It's not about that, Nance. It's more about what did we learn from this. And as far as Barbie Land's concerned, Barbie Land went from X to Y back to X, whereas any movie is going to have some kind of growth and maturity, and that's where it's like,
what did we learn from Indiana Jones?
Well, I'm not. I mean, Indiana Jones is just an adventure movie about Indiana Jones, where again, like one of the most annoying things was to have the shot of at the end. It's like the hat's hung up, implying that we're done. We've done 5 movies. Indy's old as fuck. We're done. And then he snatches it, and it's just like, okay, like can't we just shut this down and be done? But
put Grandpa in the nursing home.
Yeah, aren't we done with this? and then I think
not every movie has a lesson, life learning thing.
Yeah,
but Nance, look at the movies at the top of the look at the 3 movies at the top of the list. Look at the 4.
What did we learn from John
4
Wick
movies at the top of the list?
John Wick 4 is just incredibly
what did we learn
well
from Mission
executed.
Impossible?
Mission
Impossible. There are life lessons
well
in every
executed.
movie.
We
talked about Mission Impossible.
Here,
hold on. I'll go through all 3. I'll go through all 4 of those. Right, Mission Impossible. I talked about is about trusting a team, trusting your friends around you to get through the impossible missions in life. Whether that like you take that like actually literally, and it's like you can't do things alone. You have to have friends around you. That was the point of Mission Impossible 4, and you have to learn that you're not out alone in this world. 3 is again, it's family. It's 3. Guardians of the Galaxy was about.
Well, I guess you could say,
but it's not just family. It's just like even if you're screwed up, like all of James Gunn's movies about this. But it's like even if you come from a really screwed up background and your real family is not perfect, you can always make your own family. Infinity Pool was about the life lesson of.
What if you remove consequences from people?
Yes, that's right. Thank you.
What becomes of them? And they turn into little devils.
And then Beau Is Afraid was about how your
what if your single mom was wealthy enough to follow you everywhere you go in life and make your life hell so that you always have to come back?
You have to have personal response. You have to have personal initiative in your life. You can't just live your life without any kind of.
The lesson from Barbie.
So those movies have
your stereotypical Barbie and Ken.
What now?
It's just Barbie and Ken doesn't like. it doesn't. Again, I just don't think
You don't
it
have to
lands.
be stereotypical Barbie. You don't have to be stereotypical Ken.
But was that the whole movie, Nance?
You don't need Barbie
Was
and
the
Ken.
entire movie expressing that idea, or was it sidetracked by complaining about, you know?
Oh, it was sidetracked.
Yeah, and that would be my thing. Whereas my brain, and this doesn't apply to the ranking, but my brain leaving Infinity Pool, it was like I was going through like epileptic shock. Beau Is Afraid. I had a hard time walking. I had to crawl out of the theater because I was just like, oh my god. Leaving Oppenheimer, I was just like, I didn't have a stroke like those movies, but I was just like, my god.
I felt
Versus
death.
the rest of these fucking movies where
Oh,
like
yeah.
Barbie, I
Dolby,
shot up
Dolby.
and ran out. I was just like, get me out of here, you know.
Well, that's
And-
how I
and-
was with Sound of Freedom.
Sure.
Same.
Well, because Sound
To
of
each
Freedom,
their own.
you know, on Wednesday, Nance was like, I would rather rewatch this or that, and I'm like, I don't ever. I want to rewatch Sound of Freedom as often as I want to rewatch Schindler's List or Passion of the Christ, which is to say, not often. They're not movies that you're like, hey guys, it's Saturday night. You want to pop in Passion of the Christ? You want to pop in Schindler's List? No. They're not movies that are rewatchable. They're just important movies, and so that's the fun part about this
I
about
don't
ranking.
think Sound of Freedom deserves to be in that group.
But it's fun.
But I follow your logic.
That's why it's fun to rank a bunch of disparate titles, because it's difficult and because it's like, how are you going to rank something? How are you going to rank something like Asteroid City versus Spider-Man? How are you going to do that? But that's what's fun. That's what's fun about this experiment, is that they are all over the place.
They're all different movies, and we're all different people.
Yeah.
Maybe next season we can get a woman, and I don't know, Scott.
What are we going to do with a
someone.
woman? Why are we getting a woman, Nance? Where are we getting this
Because all women
from?
think the same.
We need more points of view.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody out there knows a really, really hot chick who's single, send her our way, and we'll put her on the
Well, that
podcast.
wasn't the point of that, but okay.
No,
That wasn't the point of that, but okay.
I
Charlie,
did a
you're
little
gonna,
bit
like,
of research
that's what
into
I
this
want.
movie, and I'm surprised and glad Charlie didn't bring them up. But have you seen this on Fox News, Char? The 9 dots on the map, and it's not even 9 dots.
Oh no! Actually, no. I was
9
going to put this in there.
what?
So
9 dots on
apparently,
the map?
Fucking
there's okay.
stupid
So here's
shit.
the thing. In
As
the
usual,
movie-
I don't fucking watch as much as you guys, and you want to
I
convince
looked into
everybody
it
that I
because I
watch
needed to
Fox
be
News. I do
prepared for
not
what
watch
you were
Fox
gonna
News.
say.
Hold on.
Fox News.
No, when he
Which,
was-
by the way,
no,
Fox
wait,
News is
it doesn't
bought
matter
by
about the Fox
Disney.
News shit.
So
What
anybody
Charlie
watching
was
Fox
talking-
News, you're playing yourself.
Anyway, Nans was talking about, like, apparently there's a huge dispute between China, Taiwan, Thailand, and I think the Philippines as far as who owns a part of an ocean out in the South China Sea.
Okay.
And there's some kind of line or marker that
And is
supposedly
it Vietnam?
it's called the 9 dashes or 9
outlawed
dots.
Barbie because of this.
Well, yeah, because they saw
Maybe
this
it's
on the
Thailand, I
map
don't know.
when they go to Weird Barbie's World, which I feel like there's a huge chunk of this movie I wish we had talked more about, because I do think that Kate McKinnon's
dude,
character is a lot of fun.
Let's
Kate
keep
McKinnon
going.
is
Let's keep
hilarious.
going.
Let's
It's
just keep
Saturday
going.
night, dude. Saturday
All
night.
right,
Can I go?
okay.
I need another drink.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm down.
While
to
you
keep
do
hanging
that,
out.
I'll
I don't
just
care.
tell Charlie. I'll
Because I'm
explain
aware
Charlie
of
the
what
thing
I'm
that you
doing.
brought up.
We've already ranked, right? Okay, hang on. Just
We
for
haven't- we
official
haven't
purposes,
toasted.
we're good, right? We put it above
Yeah,
Indiana Jones.
I think we're all in agreement. I think we're all we
Like I
can
said,
all
I'm not
walk
going to
away.
fight you guys too hard on this. I'm willing to
We
say,
can
like,
all walk away.
I've got my own
and feel
bias.
great.
I've got my. Oh wait, that's not the right one. I've got my own bias. Why is that so small? What's happening? There we go.
It's not doing it.
My and my bias, I think, is legit. I think that I think we live in a post-feminist world where, like, what else are women? I'm with you, women.
Points.
I'm with you, women. What are you fighting for? But in absence
have a
of
lot of
anybody
points
saying what they're fighting for,
of-
I'm good with this. I think
True.
something below the machine, but above Indiana Jones, I could be like, yeah, Indiana
Because, like,
Jones.
when I think of the other movies, I
like-
left those movies and I felt like I felt like the third acts worked. I thought the third acts worked a lot better in all
Sure.
the movies above this.
Literally
That's really where
everything below the
thought
top
process was
10
at.
is a piece of shit. It's sorry, below. Well, no, it's kind of changed now because I don't think below the top 10 is a piece of shit. I think
No. I think Rise of the I think Transformers is kind of where, like, I think Pope's
Yeah.
Exorcist is still works. I think it's corny, but I think it still works.
It's corny and
I-
it's a retread, but it's like
Right. I
it's
think
slightly
Magic Mike is more of an art house film than an actual movie. Like,
an
I know you were going
inappropriate
on
art
about how
house
this movie's
film.
not a movie, but I'm like, this movie's more of a movie than I think Mike's Last Dance is. Magic Mike has flourishes of like
Magic Mice.
Magic
That's a
Mice.
movie.
Magic
That's a
Mice.
movie. Yeah.
That's where I'm at. Anyway,
Yeah.
I had a point. No, so Charlie, when she goes to Weird Barbie's house, which by the way,
Yeah.
I loved. I thought Kate McKinnon's character of her was Weird Barbie was fucking perfect. I thought
Sure.
Yeah.
you and I
She
have
reminded
complained
me
about
of
Ghostbusters.
Angelica's
and I have
doll from Rugrats.
Yes. You and I have
Yeah.
complained so much about Ghostbusters 2016 for how bad it is, but she is like least a weird standout that people have always said, oh, she's really funny. But I think I don't want to go down that rabbit hole necessarily, but I do think she is funny. I think this is a perfect role for her. I think she was great as the weird Barbie. I think she works. I love the whole bit where she's always in splits because like I remember as a kid, like, you know, the Barbie's just sitting around and they're always like this, you know. I loved that. I thought that was really funny.
Same. I appreciate jokes like that.
I thought that stuff was really fun. I also liked but anyway, when they go to that place, there's a map of the real world, and in that map that you see some kind of dots.
She's
around
explaining
that area.
like her
So apparently
travel, right?
Vietnam and China got upset because they were like, oh, that's in the movie. That means America has a stance on this. And they were like, no, it's not because of that. The art, whoever did the art did that or whatever. And they were like, well, just blur it out. And so it was a whole, again, it's like, what are we doing here? Fucking spiders, which is the thing I found from a Margot Robbie thing. She would talk about in Australia, they would say, what are we doing? You know, like, are we, you know, why are we fucking around? She says in Australia, they say, what are we going to do? What are we doing around here? Are we fucking spiders or are we going to get this done? Like that's a phrase in Australia. I love that phrase, by the way. Other thing I liked all of the, it's kind of like what they do with Lego Movie and some other toy movies, but I love all the Barbie, because we talked about, I was talking about Barbie collectibles, right? I love all the Barbie deep cut references to stuff that they bring out, like the dog that poops, but apparently was recalled because of like kids were eating the magnet type thing. Like they were eating those poops.
Yeah.
So they had to recall it. I liked that. I liked how they brought all these weird Barbies out and Kens that were like, you know, discontinued or just like an offshoot thing that was like, yeah, there was this Barbie that actually existed, or like Midge, and they were like, yeah, that's problematic to having a pregnant Barbie because then people start questioning things, and then like the skipper
or what's her name's
who
like it's like, yeah, motherfucker, and they put Mattel over her mouth. Like there was a
I
lot
loved
of just,
all
like,
of that stuff. I love that stuff.
There were parts though where I was starting to have flashbacks to what WB did their metaverse with. Help me out.
Space Jam?
Space Jam. Yeah, Space Jam 2, where it was like WB is gonna have this like Nance, you weren't
Oh,
on
yeah,
the Two Brews back
yeah.
in the day where we were like, okay, so here's the understanding. WB has a whole bunch of film properties, and we're gonna go ahead and have a movie to connect everything. So like in 1 minute they're in Space Jam, and then another minute they're in the Matrix, and then another minute they're in Road Warrior, Mad Max. Like
Mad Max, yeah.
It's just like you should fire the intern who had the idea. We should do what the MCU did. Wouldn't that be awesome? It's like,
well, it's more or less like that they instead of doing a movie that was straight just about the Looney Tunes and basketball, they did this movie where the second Space Jam was where like LeBron James is it's very meta, and Warner Brothers tells LeBron James, we want to put you in this movie, but we have this thing called the metaverse or something like that, or our Warner Brothers universe, and that's a computer program that houses all of the Warner Brothers properties, so Looney Tunes, Batman, DC, Harry Potter, The Matrix, anything that Warner Brothers has its hands on. And so then there's a sequence where they have to go find all the Looney Tunes, they jump into the worlds of all these things. So they go into the DC world and find Daffy Duck, and he's dressed up as Superman.
But
They
my
go
point being that
into
notice
Road
they didn't do
Warrior.
that in this movie though. Like notice that that's gone.
I'm glad they
Notice
didn't.
that
do it.
they're just like.
Glad they,
"Yeah,
but I
that's
think
bad."
they wouldn't have done that because they were. But the one thing they do is and like Lily would kept poking to me, and she'd be like, "Oh, did you see that?" And they're like Warner Brothers Discovery in the water towers in the background of some of the real world stuff. Like if you watch closely, like you see the Warner Brothers tower, or you see like a building behind Will Ferrell when they're in the boardroom. You see the Warner Brothers Discovery is in a sign in the backdrop. So they do kind of put all that stuff in there. It's a little weird, but it's like there's like little funny things like that.
Charlie.
Again, like I think I would not be surprised if this movie wins the Oscar for production design. Like I
Sure,
would not be
sure,
surprised. It's
sure.
it's probably going to win.
Do you,
'cause
okay,
it's just, like,
real
so
quick.
well.
Like I know it's tomorrow, but like, do you guys think Cillian Murphy is gonna win Best Actor?
I think Robert Downey Jr. has a good shot at playing Best Supporting
Yeah, I
Actor.
don't know that
Sure.
Cillian did all that much for.
No, I think Cillian's
who
great
would
too.
who would he be up against this year? Who
So
else
Well,
is
the
there?
problem is some of the movies we have skipped movies
Yeah, what are like
that
the
are more artsy, and I feel like if we had gone back and watched those,
get
I
'em in.
feel like it would have
Let's get him in.
I would have to find which ones those
well,
movies.
yeah,
But
when Oscar season happens, we gotta kind of do
there's
that. Right?
the problem is
Knuckle
and there's-
down
and
and
I've
just
said
do
this.
them all.
I've said this before
Nut
about
up.
the Oscar season. I know, Charlie, you have your own complaints about it, but I've always said this. I feel like the Oscar season, when it rolls around, there's like 3 or 4 types of movies. There are the 2 or 3 movies that everyone went and saw in theaters that were really fucking good. So like previous years, you had like Top Gun Maverick, and like everyone saw that movie. Oppenheimer and Barbie are going to be this year's movies that everyone went and saw and they loved, right? Those are going to be the movies that everyone loved. Then there's like a group of movies that like there's like one of those movies is like a really well acted movie, but the story is just kind of boring and
Air.
puts you to sleep, and you're like I don't know. Air also might. I don't know. I still really liked Air. I think that
I liked
you're
Air.
gonna have
but,
one of
but
those
You're
movies.
describing Air.
Well, a movie we haven't even talked about yet because it's not out is Scorsese's movie about about Native Americans
Flowers
and the oil
thing?
industry. Yeah, Flowers of the I don't even know the moon. Flowers and Moon. I don't know, something like that. That movie's probably going to be up. So Leo will probably be up for a best picture.
Again,
Best
he just
actor.
won. Don't he doesn't need it.
They're gonna get. I mean, Spielberg's been nominated multiple times, so it
Pillars
wouldn't
of the
surprise me
Flower
they
Moon.
would nominate him. So yeah,
I'm more
that-
excited for
anyway, but
Napoleon, though.
there's-
That looks cool.
Yeah, there's the movies that everyone has
Yeah.
seen. Then there's like these movies that is like this really well acted movie.
Meg
A bunch of
2.
movies that kind of fall off that are like either a foreign film or movies that like not everybody went and saw or they didn't have a huge wide release that will also be in those categories. So like, who knows at this point? I'm right now. I'm just
I'm looking at
betting
the
that we'll
upcoming
see-
list, and I don't really see.
I'm betting Scorsese's movie's
whole
going to be
lot
here.
else besides what we
Oppenheimer's
just
going to be on that
mentioned.
list. Barbie might even be on that list, and I think I don't know if Beau Is Afraid will be on there. I would love it.
I would
if-
hope so for something.
but
I'm with SB, who says that none of that means anything, and I agree. It doesn't mean anything because we live in an age where it's not about the movie itself; it's about what the movie represents, and that's an inevitability. I accept that it's an inevitability, but in a vacuum, would undoubtedly Cillian Murphy will be a contender. Whether he wins
Yeah.
or not, we'll see. We'll see.
What about that? Would the actor writer strike affect the Oscars at all? Is that affecting
possibly.
McCurdy at all?
yeah,
Everybody's super chat, and every super chat from tonight will send to McCurdy's diaper fund because of fucking everybody striking.
The writer strike does affect me currently because the writer strike.
Is it more the
Yeah,
writers or
strike.
the actor strike
Now
that
it's the
affects
actor
It's
you?
strikes
both.
too.
So the writer strike. Okay, so here's the thing: when the writer strike,
Do you think it's a
happened,
good thing?
all of productions that were going to go into production? So specifically, like think about TV productions.
We're officially done talking
When a
about
TV
Barbie.
has a production, they have to have the writers on board for the entire show because the show might change as the show progresses. They might rewrite something, or they might have to change some dialogue or change a scene
Just
because
put a bunch
couldn't
more
get the
fight
location in.
scenes in. like in Quantum.
It does.
Like-
It's
like
still
Quantum,
like it doesn't
exactly.
matter if you put in a fight scene or not. You still have to write how that's going to play out and stuff. So they had.
No, you
to-
don't. You just
lot
say a
of students-
vicious fight
just
scene
start-
ensues.
punching and
Yeah,
kicking.
so
each
someone
other.
has to write that down and figure out the logistics of it. So that was part of it. And then
Well,
when the
just-
the
you can
actor,
write punch,
but no,
kick,
no,
punch.
a part of it was that because of the writer strike,
Grab.
when productions kind of knew that it was a good possibility it was going to come up, so they decided they were going to hold off. For like, hey, we're not going to put anything new in production because we don't want to be caught with our pants down halfway through production and then we get fucked because we don't have any writers on staff. So they were like, we're just going to put a pause on it. And then same with some movies went ahead and went on because the script was already written. But then when it came to the actor strike, like that really affects things because nothing can go unless you have the actors and you're paying them. So
It's like it's a complicated thing because
it's a very complicated thing.
generally speaking, like perhaps it's a good thing, but at like for you and other people
There's
that aren't
the entity
in front of
count.
the camera, like you guys are all getting fucked over.
According to negotiations, maybe the entity is a character that should be
End titty.
Right. The
entity.
entity.
You know, like it's like who is out there fighting for the rights of AI? Gabriel. Only Gabriel. Gabriel's like,
Elon Musk is firmly against them.
yeah, Gabriel
Char,
and Elon
you
Musk.
know the Barbie you thought was hottest? Did you know that was a trans person?
I did. I was like,
That made you
Which
think
Barbie?
they were hotter?
no, I did. I was like, I swear, Nance, I was like, I'm looking at a man right now.
Which Barbie?
And
I did
kept-
not know.
kept-
I did
Wait, which
not know
Barbie?
until I tried to prepare myself for tonight's episode.
Nance, that's how acute my dick is. Do you understand? Do you understand, Nance?
Your
Do you
dick
understand?
searches out cute boys, girls.
It's not obtuse. It's acute.
It's acute. It knew.
A cute angle,
Because I was like,
Cute angle.
straight down.
there's something off, and I'll just say this: it's probably
To-
because
I
I'm
didn't
very,
realize
no,
it
Nance,
until I
Nance,
researched
I'm very
after,
plugged
but
in.
the whole time I was thinking, there's like one. Maybe we shouldn't. talk
Nance,
about
I have swiped this entire country.
this. That's true. You're down in Texas.
You understand? I've swiped the U.S.
You
of
are
A,
searching far and wide.
yes, to the point where
I think you're better.
occasionally you're like, "Whoa, I matched with a tranny." They are really progressing in terms of technology for masking a man being a woman. And then you just unmatch.
Fair enough.
But I swear I was watching this movie and I was like, there's something off about this redhead.
I don't even know who you're.
There's a little baritone going on to this redhead here. So
Oh
yeah,
God.
I'll just
I
say
didn't
that.
notice that.
I don't even
But I
know
did
what
think
you guys are talking about.
This one I'm not as attracted to
Yeah.
as the other ones.
How
Yeah.
many? So, how many people showed up in your theater and they were dressed in pink? Because there were.
There
I
was a
dressed
lot
in
of
pink.
dressing
There were a
up.
lot of people dressed in pink on my.
I
Theater.
didn't know it was a dress-up event.
It was. Again, that's
We-
why
my wife
like,
and I had a date
I'm
night.
sorry,
I went
guys.
to Oppenheimer dressed
feel-
up as a burnt corpse.
Nan's
That's messed up.
for anybody
That's
who
messed
can't
up.
tell, Nan's is half Japanese.
My family was not from Hiroshima or Nagasaki.
Oh
When did
my
your mother
God.
come to the States? Was she born in Japan?
18. Yeah,
And then she came. Okay, so
she
you
left at
are
18.
you are
Full
Nance,
blown 50%.
inevitably you are affected by like it's a very real thing to say that you might not be alive if the bombing of Japan did not occur.
If it didn't occur,
That's a true statement. If those cities were not bombed, you might not be alive.
maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
You're
I'm not
fucking,
following.
your dad would have had to, like, if your dad would have jerked off half an hour before he put you inside of your mother, you wouldn't be alive. That's just the reality. That's how
everyone's reality.
That-
I don't
yeah,
know what
exactly.
has to do with Hiroshima. Or
that's everybody's reality. My point being that the dropping of bombs on Japan
Mm-hmm.
is terrible. Terrible.
Oh,
But
I'm excited
you wouldn't
to
be
talk
alive
about
otherwise.
Oppenheimer.
You
I
wouldn't
want
be
to talk
alive.
about
I can't
Oppenheimer.
fucking wait to talk about Oppenheimer. I cannot wait.
I feel like I need to see it again though.
I
Go
didn't
to
see.
Mom.
Did you guys see it
To
in
talk
IMAX?
about it better. Yeah, I saw it in IMAX,
I saw it in
and it was
Dolby,
still
and
plenty loud.
I saw somebody next to me do this like so many times. I was like, pussy. I didn't say it, but no, I just
Was
felt,
it one of those autistic
I was
kids
like,
that
I was
has
like, get
headphones
this.
on?
What
You
did I
called
say? I
him a
said, get
pussy?
this. I looked at that guy and I said, get this crybaby out of the theater.
Don't let that crybaby back in.
Don't
Okay,
let
real
that
quick
crybaby back in.
though. Just a teaser for tomorrow.
Uh-huh.
Where are you guys thinking about putting up?
Are we looking? I'm looking at
Number 3.
Where's top 3? I'm looking at top 3 right now.
Top 3.
It
Okay.
beats Guardians.
Somewhere there.
Okay.
I think we're gonna have to talk
Right.
about it because I'm
We'll
not
leave it at
like
that.
yeah,
You
it's
know,
gonna
I
be
don't
a
like
top
Infinity
3
Pool
kind of
as
thing.
much as you guys, so
We'll leave it at that. I just didn't think that Oppenheimer was standing up for women, so it's the fucking bottom.
Well, that was not what the movie is about.
Where's my fucking
okay.
pink rosé?
Okay, there was another
Where's
thing I
my
wanted to bring
fucking
about.
pink rosé?
Okay, hey, talking about pink for a second, right?
What?
I wanted to talk about a couple of things. The crazy. Okay, so like this movie outperformed
God, Zach,
Oppenheimer,
you're gonna
which
be
doesn't
so
surprise
tired.
me. That really doesn't surprise me.
Wait, hang on. We've been going for
What?
2.25
We went
hours.
for so long. Yes,
Somebody,
on Sound of Freedom.
somebody with us, send us like $1 super chat. I'm serious.
We're done talking about Barbie.
We're
but
done talking.
What should we talk about
now? We're just hanging out. Send us $1 super chat just for like morale.
My
Seriously.
wife is out of town. I'm gonna
Zach,
get like
SB,
college
yes,
drunk.
that's yes, SB,
Mrs.
that's
McCurdy, fucking Mrs. Nans. Somebody fucking super chat us so we just keep hanging out because it's fucking Saturday night. There's no reason.
Oh, I
to
don't
keep hanging out.
I don't let my wife watch this
SB.
show.
Next week is Haunted Mansion.
Because she fucking hates my guts.
You and I wouldn't be allowed to be friends.
Yeah, SB. Next week is Haunted Mansion. So just so everyone's
Okay.
aware,
Yeah,
next week is
yeah.
Haunted
Well,
Mansion.
I won't be here next week, right?
I don't
Okay,
know,
do
bro.
I need to do it? Do I need to
Remember.
fucking super chat in order to keep this fucking thing going?
You do.
Sure. Just lose
Yeah,
some
I'm
of your
not
money,
gonna
I
do it.
guess.
I don't know how to work.
I
my
will
phone.
be
Anyway, we were talking about
gone next
going back to
weekend
Barbie again. I do
and
think it's
the
great.
af-
Like
the
I
weekend
knew
after.
this movie was going to outperform Oppenheimer. Like I knew that going ahead. I was like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
like,
of course,
this
of
movie's
course.
This,
Of
like the
course.
audience is just going to be a wider range audience. But
Yeah.
the other thing I've noticed though is I feel like Warner Brothers is putting a lot more money in the marketing than probably Oppenheimer is. Universal is for Oppenheimer because like you go
I
to
think
Google
Chris
right
Nolan
now.
is more in control
Go-
of the marketing, though.
Maybe, but go to Google right now. Type
Oh,
in Greta
Google.
Gerwig.
Yeah, it gets all pink.
Yeah, if
and
you type in
circles.
Barbie, Greta Gerwig, or Ryan Gosling, or Margot Robbie into Google, it'll go pink, and there'll be like this Barbie thing. And then Nans, you said you didn't see it in Dolby, but even when I went and saw
IMAX.
I saw Oppenheimer in Dolby, and
I
when you
saw
see
Barbie
it
in
in Dolby,
Dolby.
they don't have the regular standard Dolby ad because they did for Barbie, but they have this Barbie ad for Dolby, which I thought was really weird. I was like, so they're just doing it for all
Wait,
the movies
what?
now that Barbie's out? So
When
you know
the,
when you
the
go,
ad where it's like, this used to be black.
this is black, but this is black with Dolby
And
Cinema.
they say,
and
this used to be pink. Now this is pink.
no. It's just the Barbie theme music that they start
Speaking
with,
of
like
which.
dun, 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 like that 70s Barbie theme that they play, and it's Dolby, like it's like the Dolby thing, and then there's like a plane that flies through it, and like they're like, yeah, it's the Dolby thing, but I was like, they're using it for Oppenheimer as well, so I wonder if they're like
Weird.
Warner Brothers, but so Warner Brothers is paying a lot of money.
Well,
to get
I
people
told
to
you
see this
guys, I
movie.
got an Oppenheimer trailer when I was waiting for Oppenheimer to start. It's like, what? Fuck
That's
off.
how much
Just
you have
let
to
me watch the
anticipate
movie if you're gonna show the trailer.
Oppenheimer. Hold on, let me go get. You know what, guys? Tonight is a special night because we're talking about Barbie. I
Want to
will
know something
bring out-
weird? I was at Walmart earlier.
I will bring out the Crown Royal, the Apple Crown. deck
Oh my god!
We're getting
for the
silly.
toast for this movie.
I went to
The toast for this movie, I'll
Walmart
bring it.
earlier, and in the liquor section, it said all the Crown is behind this customer service desk.
It doesn't
What does that
surprise me.
mean?
I don't know.
People steal it. I don't know.
For some reason, people steal crowns specifically.
Man, that's some bullshit.
Green
man.
apple crown is the hot stolen
Gross.
item.
Gross. I'm
know.
upset that someone didn't just get me a crown, but whatever. Anyway, talking about, are we toasting? Are we getting there? Are we? I mean, I don't have anything else
done
to
with
add.
Barbie.
Okay,
We're
I have
toasting
nothing
the
else
pink.
to add.
we have ranked, and we're
We have
set.
ranked?
At this point, we're only hanging out. It's Saturday night. It's not a Sunday night. Nobody's working tomorrow. We're only buying into a hangover that we have to deal with tomorrow, that will potentially fuck up.
I already have
Talking
a
about
really-
Oppenheimer.
We should have just gone
Oppenheimer
straight
is.
into Oppenheimer. I should
I'm-
have just said, "Fuck
We
it."
should
let's
go to
straight-
Oppenheimer hungover and just.
I would
Loud
go.
noises.
I would
All
go
wear
straight into
sunscreen.
Oppenheimer. I would do it
We sh-
right now. I
we
would
should-
close this out and I would go straight into Oppenheimer.
I would have nothing. Like for the behind the stuff, I had nothing because I haven't prepared anything. I should have
We
prepared.
could just
today. I
Google
wasn't
it.
gonna do that.
We'll do
Just
it live.
Google it. Do it.
It's got
live.
Matt Damon and Cillian Murphy. That's all you know. It's a bomb.
Problem is,
It has so many people. It has
Yeah.
so many people
yeah.
in it.
Oh,
So many people. No, Charlie did text
crazy.
me. He's like, "You're not going to put that in all the people. You're not going to put every single person in there." And I'm like, "No,
It's
I'm
like-
not."
it's like,
Because
please
I
don't.
like my dad. There were so many times my dad leaned over and he was like, "Wait, who's that?" And I was like, "That's Robert Downey Jr." And he's like, "Oh, okay." He's like, "That's
McCurdy's
Robert
dad's
Downey Jr." I'm
British.
like, "Yeah."
Right, is that
Oh,
fucking?
is that Robert Downey Jr.?
Right, is that Cillian Murphy? Right, is that fucking Robert Downey Jr.?
Is that who said
You know
it
what
is?
I mean? Well, you fucking shit. Is that Matt Damon? You
Is
fuck.
that Matt Damon? God damn, dude. There's God, there's so many fucking
It's
people in
his
this movie.
entire.
Both of these movies had so
literally
many
the
fucking
only
people.
person not in that movie was Michael Caine. Like that was the only person not in his.
If we-
in that movie was Michael.
I'm
Caine.
surprised.
I
he
mean,
didn't
even,
call. I'm surprised he didn't make Michael Caine Albert Einstein.
Yeah, right.
Like
I'm,
that,
I'm Michael
at least-
Caine. Hey,
E equals MC squared.
E equals MC fucking squared. You fucking bitch. Fuck it. You know, like that would have been great. That would have been so good. And then we'd all be like, what a waste of a movie.
I mean, if we just run
Right.
into Oppenheimer, this can be straight up a Oppen Barbie or
we can call it Barbie-
Barbenheimer
Barbenheimer.
or whatever that everyone's coining.
the Barbenheimer. Yeah.
The Barbenheimer.
It's a
I don't have enough to
Barbenheimer,
say
yeah.
about. But here's the thing. I want to come into it and I want to be prepared. And
So
like, actually
Barbie's
talk
winning?
about- Yeah, like
22.2
Yeah, of course it
million
is.
on
that
Thursday.
didn't surprise. Here's the
course
thing,
it
man.
is.
That did not
Of course
surprise
it
me
is.
because I think Barbie. Here's the thing. Barbie's like it's a movie for women that are gonna go see it, so they're gonna drag all their boyfriends and their
Dude,
husbands.
I saw
We were
so
gonna be
many
like, yeah, I'll see
boyfriends
it.
dragged into it. I just
I
Were
wasn't
they
at
wearing
the
feet?
theater. I was like, I was
so
down.
many
I was like,
boyfriends.
okay, cool. We're gonna. But like that was the ongoing joke even leading up to this movie. About even a year ago, people were talking about how the audience for there we go.
Hey!
Thank
Zach.
you, Zach.
Zach
Thank you,
gave us
Zach.
$2.
To
Appreciate
Zach
Thank you, Zach.
Casey.
But that was the thing. It's like
Yeah,
people
to
were
Zach.
making that joke over a
Zach.
year ago. Is like, what's the audience for this movie going to be? And it's
Yeah.
going to be not who you fucking expect, and it was also going to be dudes as well as women. So it doesn't surprise me. You fuck so much.
Wait, who? Who fucks
SB
so
is-
much?
This
Zach
guy fucks.
does, the guy
Isn't that a
just
thing?
tipped
Isn't
us.
that something? Isn't that a thing?
Should
What was
we?
that fucking thing?
I mean, we only have
This
4
guy
people
fucks.
watching, and maybe 1 or 2 of them are you
This guy
guys. But
fucks.
does any? Should we just like answer questions or something?
Guys,
I
it's
wish-
Saturday night. I'm down to just hang out. I'm down to just chill,
Listen.
yo.
For SB, it's only like 7:30.
Yeah.
He's just chilling. He just
Zach-
ate dinner.
Dude,
Seven
SB's
is
hanging
dessert
out with his
drink.
AI girlfriend. He's laid.
Ugh.
He's chilling. You know what I'm saying? And he just wants to talk about Barbie.
Why are they here? Like, we should be out watching movies right now. I would. That's all I'm saying.
I was planning on playing my Goose Game immediately after the stream, but I'm down to
I-
just hang out instead.
I know.
So wait, that
McCurdy, I
Mighty
think-
Goose Game. That was the thing. Okay, so when I saw you play, we were watching you play it because we had this extended period of time of we were on a date and we were like, oh wait, the movie doesn't start till 9. So we went to dinner before that, but then we went to dinner, went back home, dropped off the leftovers that we had, and then went back to the theater. 'cause we had
That's
that
always
much
the pain of eating before a movie.
Right, because we were like, wait, oh, the leftovers. But we so we were like doing that, and then I saw that you had a stream up, so I was like, I watched a little bit of the game, and I was like, this reminds me of Earthworm Jim, because if you remember that game, it was just very like.
I know the character, but I'm not familiar with the game.
Watch like a clip of that, and you'd be like, okay, I can kind of see it. It's very cartoony, but it's like the way that your character was shooting and everything. I was like, yeah, it reminds me of Earthworm Jim for sure. So
Okay, wait, quick question. McCurdy, you saw this with your
I'm
wife,
going to answer
Boo.
SP's.
saw
Nance.
both of them.
Nance, did you see this with your wife, Boo?
Yeah,
Did you like it?
she liked it.
What'd she say about it?
Not much. I think we just both were like, yeah, that was pretty good.
Okay.
That sounds like a very Nan's answer. It's like,
And then we
it.
watched Oppenheimer the next day.
like, no, and then it's just
So
the Nan's reaction is like,
really
yeah, I liked it, and it's like Nan's wife's reaction. Yeah, I liked it too.
I'm sure she said more than that, but that was the gist of it. But
that's great.
Okay,
she-
Lily though, what did
if
Lily
she
have
had
to
to
say
pick
about
between,
it?
About
if-
Barbie?
Yeah.
if
What did
Jessica
Lily
had
have-
to pick between the two, she would go Oppenheimer.
Okay.
So would I.
So, oh,
Good
wait,
woman.
wife asked about Barbie.
Yeah.
A lot of the same things. Like we both came to the same conclusions. There wasn't a disagreement. There was literally like we were both kind of like we just felt it was weird that like again at the end of the movie everything turns back to being Barbie, and that like the men are
Nothing
like
was learned.
nothing changes. Like we were
Yeah.
specifically, we thought that part was very like we both agreed to like this feels weird. Also, our big thing was like, is this a movie we want to take our daughter to? And we were both like, there's a part of that is more of on a personal
That's weird.
side.
I
My
left
daughter's
thinking,
having
is this a movie I would want to take Charlie to? And I
my
was like,
my daughter my daughter is having issues with dealing with the thoughts of
Fuck. I'd be leaning over the whole time, being like,
Shuby.
What the fuck, bro?
Shuby in the face.
Kill
hate
me.
women.
And just kill me, man.
Anyway,
Just fucking kill me,
no, that
man.
part of the problem is my daughter's having issues of like thoughts of death. Like she's like,
oh
like,
god.
not like the idea of death scares her now. Like, and it's like sometimes
it
it's brought up in
should,
the weirdest
maybe?
ways. And
How
she
old
starts
is she?
thinking about it. She's 8.
Yeah.
So she's
I'm-
just
I
having
have
these
the
weird
same thing
thoughts
going
about
on
it.
with my nieces and nephews, and like
Right.
yesterday
Just
I
sit
had
it's
down
all
and
like-
say,
yesterday
really
I
red.
cleared a
And-
mole.
and-
I cleared a dead mole or rat or whatever the fuck it was. I
Uh-huh.
cleared it out of my sister's well, and you know, my niece is like, "Is it
Damn,
dead?" And I was
well.
like, "Talk to your dad about it." You know, it's like that
Yeah,
was
it's just the thought of dying. It's like the
Yes.
thought of dying freaks my daughter out. So she like
Of
because
course.
this movie
Freaks everyone out.
existential dread a lot. It's like
but
that's why I
the
was like,
fucking
I was part
Lego
of the reason
movie
I wanted to
wasn't
see it.
about existential dread. It was about like the joy of building things.
right.
Like
I know you're gonna put it on the like I know if you're judging.
you
a
know
movie,
what
you
we
have to-
should do? We should do a Barbie movie about dying. Yeah, that's
Right,
gonna
right.
that's gonna
No,
make
but
$1
again,
billion
like, I go
in
back
the box
to-
office.
I
To
go
be
back
fair,
to talking
Lego
about
is
the
about
movie.
creativity
Right,
and
right.
imagination,
I'm going
and
back
Barbie
to
is
talking
more
about the
about
movie,
like
and you're framing it like you want to frame it as this is a movie that should have been for kids, and therefore it fit. Like I know we
promise
talked
SB. I'll
about it.
get
Here's
to
the
you.
thing: we talked about it. We went through, but I'm saying like yeah, but when you take that aside and you're just judging it on like what the movie is,
to $49.99.
Huh?
what did I miss?
Oh, you're seeing stuff before I am.
Hold on, wait. SB, you did have the questions like what really is the difference?
Yes. So IMAX is just aspect ratio. It's taller, bigger, but mostly
The screen
taller,
is
right?
significantly larger. Like depend, but there are two different types. There's digital IMAX and there's regular IMAX. But
God,
Like
I can't
film
regular
IMAX.
IMAX,
fucking wait to talk
True.
about fucking Oppenheimer.
true IMAX.
At least at my theater, Dolby is a different projector type, which is a DLP or something. I don't know. The blacks are blacker. Think of it as
DLP
like
is in every
OLED or
theater.
something. And then there's
DLP
just
is
like
in
a fuck ton of speakers everywhere.
They put a lot. There's a lot more emphasis on sound.
It's
with the
probably
Dolby
like
theaters.
Dolby
Also, they put
Atmos, but they also
subwoofers.
have like seat rumblers.
They put
and all that crap.
subwoofers and throughout all
Oh,
the seats. So
but
you
then
when
he said
like planes
D-Box
and
here
things fly
too.
by, you really feel it. What's that?
I feel like D-Box more or less.
I have
is
no idea. I've
Dolby
never done
Digital.
D-Box. But
D-Box,
then there's also
I think, is the same
laser.
thing.
Is Dolby Digital? Is D-Box?
I
And then
think
there's like
because I don't
4DX,
see D-Box
like
anymore.
4DX is the one where it's like you get in the seats and they rumble and they move around, and it's supposed to be
Ugh.
more like an amusement park ride. And a lot of people say they don't really like
But
that
that's
one.
not at any
Really
theaters, is it?
That is Regal. I think Regal has. There's like one theater here in Atlanta that has that, but like, I've never gone to it.
It's funny because I
don't
don't
see
know
the
if it
point of
was
going to it.
Barbie or something else, but recently I was like, oh yeah, remember 3D movies? It's like we all just
Yeah,
decided that
IMAX.
was
No.
shit.
Avatar have it. Avatar Way of Water have
They're
it.
still doing that? Oh my god.
Yeah, but
Yeah, 'cause
no,
it
I
came out
don't
in
think as far as
2009.
no, you're saying as far as like movies, new movies coming out and doing it in real 3D. There are
Like
still
wearing
movies that do.
glasses
Like, let
and-
me hold on 1 second. Let me pull up my app. Pull up my Amazon Theaters app that we should. I wish we were sponsored by. We're not.
Amazon
Um,
theaters?
Amazon. What am I saying? AMC. What am I saying?
Yeah.
Okay, let me see here. Coming soon. Let me go to my theaters.
Well, maybe Regal could, but they probably can't afford us because
Showtime.
they can't even
Let me change it to
fix their
tomorrow.
theaters.
I'm just scrolling through. So Barbie's going to be in Dolby for 2
I think we
showings.
answered your question.
And then Oppenheimer. That's the thing. Oppenheimer and Barbie have had to switch places in the same theater at the one that I go to.
I haven't noticed that at mine. But yeah, so SB, as far as I'm aware, at
playing in
least at
3D.
my theater, Dolby is better projector than so you got digital, which is like basic bitch. Then you got Dolby, which is makeup. It's Margot Robbie, not basic bitch. You get sound everywhere. You get better projector. And then IMAX is, imagine like standard aspect ratio, but you get more height to it. And the screen
It still
itself is
wide.
bigger.
I think it was back when they did the Dark Knight. Wally Fisher, the DP on Dark Knight, had said something about IMAX, and he was like, "It says it's wider than it is. It's taller than it is wide, but
That's
like,
not true.
it's
is
taller
it?
than it is wide. That's why it has that. Like when you look at it on,
Is it?
like, yeah, it's taller than it is wide. The aspect ratio, like again, you're talking about how big
Old
the
school
aspect ratio
TVs
is.
4x3. Those are wider than they are tall, right?
It's closer to Old Academy, I believe. But anyway, it's still equally as wide as like widescreen is, like general basic bitch widescreen.
Yeah, you
So
just
take
get
basic
more
bitch
info
widescreen
this
and
way.
you get much taller. So it's but that's also, it's like it's presented in a theater that is much larger. The screen is already much larger than any regular screen at most.
Do you know
Well,
if they do anything with the audio in IMAX?
they might.
They
I don't
just
know.
turn
But
up the
also,
volume more, it seems like.
well, they might have a better speaker system than just a standard shit theater, because there's a lot of theaters I've been to where the audio systems in the theaters are just garbage, and you're just like, this sucks. But there is a difference in the types of IMAXs, because there's the digital IMAX that uses the laser projection, and then there is like the true IMAX that are much bigger, and they have like they
I'm
still use
looking
the
at
old
an image
cameras.
of
And there's
Ghost
like
Protocol. It says CinemaScope 2.4.
Right.
IMAX Digital is a bit more info, top and bottom, 1.9, and then IMAX Film is even more,
yeah.
1.43.
But you don't find you have to look up online where the true IMAX theaters are, because when digital IMAX started coming out, it was almost like every theater could get an IMAX theater, but they couldn't get a true IMAX theater, and they usually are reserved to some of the bigger cities.
IMAX.
Like Indianapolis has a true IMAX theater,
But it's the down south one, maybe.
It's the one in Indianapolis that I believe was at the Indiana State Museum.
I'll be going there in the next couple of weeks. One of those sisters I have, one of those women that I oppress.
One of the many sisters.
Yeah, I oppress them as often as I can. One of their husbands who also oppresses them as often as he can. We're gonna go to Oppenheimer, where he said it was like there's 30 locations nationwide that have
only 30.
30. Like 32 locations nationwide, and one of them's in Indianapolis, and
it is the State Museum. Yeah, McCurdy was there.
Yeah, and it's
IMAX Theater,
like
Indiana State Museum.
IMAX 70 millimeter projection, and you know, I'm like,
The only thing is Oppenheimer.
probably won't be able to do it for a couple of weeks because it's fully booked. But I saw it today, so
That's
Well,
awesome.
about tomorrow.
I saw it IMAX AMC, and it was plenty good to me. So
Yeah.
Okay, so SB, answering your question, you guys have literally ranked half of 2023. Thoughts on the climate of films and where we are at in movies making world. So I talked about this on the Discord a little bit because I know somebody had
everything
mentioned,
about
I think it was James Bond. He was just talking about like movies in the 80s were not as good as people think they were, and I like the 50s and 60s as decades. Here's my take on it. I feel like because we have our own lifetime. This is gonna get, hold on, where's my fucking pretentious glasses? There we go. Pretentious glasses. Because we live our lifespans, we only see a very narrow perspective on film and movies. I think that honestly, when it comes to the movies that are out, like I don't think there's drastically any huge differences between movies this year, last year, or whatever. Besides, like, of course, the pandemic has kind of shifted things around as far as movie release dates and stuff. So I can't really speak to like is film getting worse or better. I think it depends on what you're looking at, because you can look at a movie like Beau Is Afraid or Infinity Pool and be like, oh yeah, there are still good films. But is that just because we're living now and we think that, or is like even back, 10
Bad
years ago,
movies have
people
always
were
come
saying this?
out. Bad
Bad
movies
always
have
come out?
always been a thing.
Good movies have always
the
come out.
only
I just
old
think
ones that
we
stick
always-
around are the good ones.
Yeah.
I personally just don't I don't consider complaints where they say movies are bad today, and I'm like, no, some movies are bad today because there's always a bad movie. You go back to the 1930s, the 40s, there's gonna be a ton of bad movies. You can probably find those movies for very cheap too, because their copyrights are probably expired and they didn't really care.
Music too. Like I remember the Beatles, right? The Beatles come out, and there were all these let's just call them fakers, who would be like somebody would come out
Imitators?
with imitators who would come out with a song called My Boyfriend Got a Beatles Haircut. That's a legitimate song title, right? My boyfriend got a Beatles haircut, and that's capitalizing on a trend, right? So the Beatles are a big thing. You just copy them. You make some stupid song, and you're a big hit for like a week. You're a one-hit wonder for a week, and that's how the entertainment business has always been. And we want to say that it's the worst it's ever been. Now it's terrible, but like. Maybe it is in some ways, but at the same time, every single year has a certain amount of quality that comes out and a bunch of bullshit. And it's not until a couple of years go by that you can parse that out, and that's always been the case. The Godfather comes out in what, 1972?
72.
What else came out in
72?
72? A lot of movies that nobody remembers. A lot that nobody remembers, and then some that everybody remembers.
I think there is.
That's
I think
art.
A part of the
that's
factor,
art
though,
in general.
But I think a part of the factor when it comes to movies like this, I think I was trying to get to this point on the Discord, and like after reading, I was like, yeah, I didn't make my point. The thing I was trying to say is that like what we were talking about is like there's always good movies, there's always bad movies that come out every year. The thing is, the industry has changed drastically from when movies started becoming a thing, the golden age of Hollywood, when it was anything that was a motion picture, anything was not on television as far as a TV show, everything was movies. So you had way more movies going into theaters. Theaters weren't multiplexes, they were single. You'd go to the movie theater and you would probably, like, I think we talked, I don't even remember what it was. Which episode it was. I think it was Indiana Jones. We talked about you sat and you watched a movie and there was multiple, you would have two movies showing. And as far as how the studios operated, which movies they handed out and all that stuff, that was different. And then, now as far as today goes, we have multiplexes, we have a shrinking audience because now you're in computes with not only television, but streaming and internet. So, and video games. There's all these different avenues now. So it's a lot harder. Those are the things that have changed. But as far as the movies themselves, it's like the outliers are always going to be like there. It's just like, it depends on where you look. And then when you look at it, you're like, it's not as different as you really think. Like I think there was a do you remember Miss Taff at in high school? Did you guys have Miss Taff? She was a history teacher. She did American history.
No,
One of the things she taught us
don't think
in
so.
that class is like the one thing you can learn about history is history never changes. Sometimes it does, but most of the time it never changes, and it's always the same shit every single day. I don't think there's like I think we live in we only see a small portion of the world. Like think about it this way. When we talk about history or what you can recall in the grand scope of history, I only think about the 20th century. And then when I talk about the Civil War, it's like an event that happened in the middle of the 1800s and then go all the way back to the Revolutionary War. But there's so much stuff that's happening between the big events that we just gloss over in most world history classes. Hell, like we'll talk about, the American Revolution, but what do we talk about prior to that? It's usually like the Pilgrims landing in America. And then we might talk about we might talk about the big events, but like there's history that happened in between those times. And then you go back even farther to like the 15th century, the 14th century. Like there's stuff that's happening.
It's weird. I saw a Reddit
whole
post
100
the other
years.
day, and it was a series of pictures from like the 1820s, and it looks relatively modern. Like you wouldn't really pick it out from like the 1920s all that much. And then I was thinking like, well, that's only like 50 years or less from the Revolutionary War, from when the US became a country. It's like it's so weird. Like you think of the Revolutionary War as like so long ago, and like everyone dressed and acted in a different way, and then 50 years later they're dressed relatively modern.
When I think about is I think about being human. Humanity doesn't change, but like of course technology changes, ideas do change about certain things, but I do think like as humans, the way that we react to those ideas has never changed. Like we are always acting as we're talking about today, either we're bitter about something, either we like something, either we hate something. That has never fucking changed. I bet you there are smart people back in those days. I bet you there were dumb people back in those days. I bet you Charlie wanted to stab his eyeballs. I'm just
the
saying,
reason
like,
it being that we agree on things, fellas. We agree, and what it comes down to is that the book I wrote is nothing new. Everything I talk about is nothing. Hopefully, is nothing new. It's just restating what people come to realize when you grow up. You grow up. You're a kid, and you're exposed to certain ideas, and it's like you're at the cutting edge of technology and life in general. And what you come to realize is that you're not. You're just repeating the same story. There's nothing new under the sun. You're repeating the same story and over. Progress is an illusion. Technological progress is real. That's real because over time, whatever, we're better at like.
I think there's a fine line. I do think,
but no, human nature. But
it's more.
But human nature.
Human nature.
Human nature does not change, and that's the problem with like. And that was jumping the gun. What was so fun about watching something like Oppenheimer is that that was Oppenheimer's like. I have an intellectual interest in communism, but that doesn't mean I'm a communist. And that's where, he's like, let's talk about it.
Yes, absolutely. You can have intellectual curiosity about anything and everything.
And he's being persecuted about it. But the whole thing is that he's like, let's talk about it. Maybe it's a bad idea, but let's talk about it. And that's a lot of intellectuals today, but then they end up being persecuted for just saying something, just saying like, I don't know. It's kind of an interesting idea. Let's talk about it. That's something suddenly you're under investigation.
I gotta go to the bathroom.
Are you going to pee right where you're sitting?
Have you even had any crown?
No, I was going to
just pee on the dollhouse.
Pee all over Barbie's dream house.
Oh, yeah, I wish. So it does come with a toilet. Like there is a bathroom that comes with this set, but she didn't bring that out because my daughter is like,
I think you'd fill it up pretty quick.
It would be funny if I was like, well, there's a bathroom right here, and like, anyway, I gotta go to the bathroom.
I don't know if that would be funny.
Anyway, I don't know what the fuck I was even talking about.
What were you talking about?
I was talking about how human nature doesn't change, but technology does. So when people say, "Oh, we're progressing," progress is specifically technological. Human nature doesn't change, and that's why I loved fucking Oppenheimer. I loved Oppenheimer because that's what it was about. That's what it was about. Technology progresses, and then human nature is the same thing. Human nature is like, for example, take like the framers of the Constitution. They knew that men are ambitious. Well, hey, Nans, why are men ambitious?
Mankind? Men?
Men specifically, why are they ambitious?
They can be ambitious for a number of reasons.
Go ahead. Why?
Well, they might want to achieve certain things for
How
themselves or perhaps
noble!
others.
How noble! What else?
They
What
might
else?
want to push their country or their field or certain things
How
forward.
noble, Nans! What else?
I'm confused.
What else? Why else would men be ambitious?
So why not? The challenge?
How noble! What else, Nans? Why do anything? Why get out of bed? Why achieve anything?
Are you saying it's for women?
Yes! Jesus Christ, yes. And that's what the framers
You
of the
have this
Constitution-
channel for women?
that is what
No,
the framers
that's
of
not
the
the
Constitution
primary
knew.
driver of
course it is.
what everyone does.
It's not.
Of course it
I think it is. I think it's more.
I don't have a
complex.
job.
I don't think.
it
I don't
because
think
I
it's that
wanna
simplistic.
attract
You're
my
saying
wife.
that if there was just a tribe,
I don't think it's that simplistic.
You're saying that if there was a
No.
collection of men
There's all
that were
kinds
all
of
just
reasons to
together, there's what would be the
strive for
point?
achievement.
What would be the point? What would if there was no future?
You don't get a
to-
sense of gratitude from achieving something just for achieving it?
But what's the point?
To
What's the
it,
point?
to do it
To do it, yeah, to do it for what? For what purpose?
for yourself, to
Oh, how great! How
to
good!
cross that finish line.
Oh, how awesome! Yeah, yeah.
Do you
for
run
what-
a
for what purpose?
marathon for chicks? Do you have this channel to attract women? No.
Everything
You do
that
it
a
because
man
it's your
does-
passion. You do it because it's what you
Everything
want to
that
do.
a man does is inevitably for a woman.
No,
I don't believe that.
not at
Well,
all.
Okay,
I don't
guys.
believe that
When
either.
you two married fellas,
If
get
we
out of
don't
bed,
agree with you, like, is that okay? Is that
when
is that so wrong?
When you get out of bed in the
It's
morning,
very
what do you do
wrong,
it for?
McCurdy.
What do you do it for? Why do you get
What?
out of bed?
I do it for my family, but that's not because I do it for a chick,
Oh
though.
yeah. No, you get out of bed for women and children. That is at the end of the day. That's what
No.
we're doing. What the fuck else?
But not
are we doing?
everybody
That
does
might
that,
be
too.
your
That's the other
simplistic
problem.
view.
Oh
of
no, I
the point
love
of life.
no, I just love I achieved something, and then I look at the other man. I go, hey, fellas, I achieved a thing. Look at the scoreboard. I achieved a
You know,
thing.
making fun
I
of it
did it.
doesn't really help your point.
I did it. No,
But-
I did it.
You like to talk
I did it.
movies because of chicks?
Yeah, I definitely.
No,
don't
no,
talk about it.
it's
What
more
are you
like,
saying? It makes
it's
no
more-
sense.
It's more like men start to develop interest in things to fill the time, but at the end of the day, what's the point of it?
To entertain yourself with things you're interested
Oh yeah, I'm gonna take myself. I'm gonna take myself with thing. Yeah, okay.
in. I like cars. It has nothing
Oh yeah,
to do with
okay.
I like movies. It has nothing
Oh
to do
yeah,
with
I like movies. Okay.
Weird.
The irony is that you guys are both married and I'm not. So anyway, do you guys have anything else to say? Or it's almost been 3
is
hours.
very
I'm
ironic.
down. I'll hang out for another.
Do I have anything else to say
6
about
hours, but-
Barbie?
I thought we were long done with
No, we're done
Barbie.
with Barbie. I'm just saying in general, we're just kind of hanging out here.
Oh. Zach Casey asked this question, and SB has continued to direct our attention to this
Oh my
question.
god! Do
Do
not
I?
do not kick this fucking hornet's nest.
Do I? Here.
You
Zach,
guys
here's
can
my-
talk about this. Someone can clip it, put it in the Discord.
Here's the thing: the channel
Or
has changed
upload it
drastically
somewhere, I don't
since
know.
the first. Okay, let me put it this way. First off, channel has changed drastically since we did that episode. So that
Yeah.
was
Has
in
it?
2021. This is 2023 now. There's a lot has changed. One, we've done more of the movies. We have
True.
kind of found our grasp in how we argue these movies and stuff. Looking back, there are things where I feel like Charlie hampers on points that I don't think really work well, because when I looked at it back, I'm like, that's not a very strong point. It's like you're moving the goalpost. So there is a
Shots
little bit of
fired.
that. There's a little bit of that. It feels
Charlie
like,
needs more whiskey and
but
saltiness.
it's not like, so there are times when I look at our list and I'm just like, I groan a little bit, but also there are a lot more movies on the list now than there was now. And it's just like, you just kind of have to live with it and move on. Like there's nothing to, I am more focused on just moving on than I am staying up at night and being like,
So the
Charlie got
answer
it
is
wrong. But I do
McCurdy
think if I
moves
really
on.
wanted to go out there, I would be like, oh, here's a video essay on like why The Man with the Golden Gun deservingly isn't the best Bond movie, or one of the best. Isn't one of the best Bond movies. I don't think it's the worst Bond movie, but it's not a top list tier movie that I think Charlie was trying to say it was when we did that episode. And also, you got to remember that was the last time, because when we started the channel, we had like 5 people. We actually, in our pilot episode, if you find that one, we had 8 people on this channel. I don't remember who we had. We had,
Something like that.
it was you, me,
We had so many
Mans,
people at the
Scott,
very, very
Jeff,
beginning. Johnny,
Junie,
Patterson.
that other, who was the guy that was one of your friends, Charlie, you had on here? I don't
No,
remember
he wasn't
who
on. He wasn't on. Mike wasn't on.
He was
Mike
maybe.
there was somebody. I felt like there was somebody. Anyway, we had like 7 or 8 people on the channel, and so we have dwindled and dwindled down. And I think also like we had again like Scott. We had Scott on the channel, and I felt like he was a very
Is there
different
any chance
personality on
Scott
the
comes
show.
back for Skyfall?
I don't think there's needs to.
The only thing holding Scott back is that he doesn't have any infrastructure. He doesn't have any technology, and and that's the thing. That's the hard part. But frankly, for me, the biggest tragedy of this channel is that motherfucking Patterson disappeared, because Patterson was supposed to come through and objectively judge the difference of opinion on Man with the Golden Gun.
Judge the judging.
I would have thoroughly appreciated Patterson coming through and going, if Patterson would have come through and said, hey, Char, I understand your points, but Man with the Golden Gun should be here, I would have gone, okay. But in the absence of that, McCurdy, I think Golden Gun is right where it should be. I think that
I don't even know. Like,
that
I'd have to
when
look
you,
in on the list
when
where
you
it's at.
when you say
I think you're.
you
I
know,
think
a
your
lot of
initial
people
thing
think
is, like,
this. What you ignore is that we actually put polls out on Reddit, and take it or leave it, whatever. But
We've
people are-
more or less left Reddit.
But on Reddit, people are like, no, Golden Gun is fucking awesome. And when you say most people don't like Golden Gun, I go, the fucking unofficial
What's his
polls
favorite
don't show it.
also?
They don't show it.
He did mention Golden Gun.
Well,
True.
that was
But
that
yeah,
was
but I could also say
specifically
that, like,
why I cut to me where he was
like,
like,
yeah,
Neil Jackson
right.
was like,
Yeah,
I love
point,
Golden
though.
Gun, and it cut to me, and I was like,
yeah. But to that point, it's like I could say I like, to
Current
that point though, I
rankings.
could say, a movie that I thought was
Golden
not,
Gun
a
is
lot of people could say,
6.
oh, I enjoy this movie for its silliness, but I think when you look at all the Bond films in a whole, it's like I don't know if you would want to weigh this movie against a bunch of these other classier Bond movies. Like that's kind of where I'm.
The
I'm at.
rankings
and also,
as of,
and I know you're saying, well, the Reddit says
oh,
this,
that's
but I'm like,
so old.
yeah, even
I'm
when
not
you
gonna
go
read
back
that.
to the audience when you go back to what the audience said at the time, even when the movie came out, it's like when
I still
when The
think,
Spy Who
dude,
Loved Me came out.
we've had
Hold on.
people saying,
When The
hey,
Spy Who Loved Me came out, people were like much more overjoyed. And I even remember watching The Spy Who Loved Me. I'm like, yes, it felt like a fresh air.
Sure.
It felt like a breath of fresh air, because I was like, yeah, this is Bond. The last movie just didn't really. I just don't think it gels very well.
But we've had people say,
that's a whole other
and
argument.
say, hey, can all of you submit your personal list of Bond? And I go, yeah, that's fine. But for me, the guy cutting all the episodes, my personal list has slowly gelled into the official ranked list. because that's me. It's like, okay, maybe I like From Russia with Love more than Goldfinger, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because the arguments for Goldfinger trump my personal feelings for From Russia with Love, and that's where
Sure.
the final list for ranked is going to change my list.
I mean,
It's going to
I would
reflect
say
my
that
list.
doing this process has changed my outlook on all the movies, because I think if
Yeah.
we had gone back and redone a lot of it, I might have different things to say about some of those movies, like even when it comes down to The Man with the Golden Gun versus, or not Man with the Golden Gun, sorry, Goldfinger or From Russia with Love. Like those feelings might be different. Because I do feel like when we started it, again, like we got to remember, like the first 7 films, that was Man with the Golden Gun was like what, film 8 in the list, if I'm right, if I'm not mistaken, right? It was like the 8th
I looked
film?
up a list, but it was from March of 22, but it was at 6. So I don't know what has happened since then.
Anyway, my point is that I think the way in which we argue these movies has changed. I think the way that we've gotten smarter about talking about the movies, like the things that we like and dislike about movies. I think, again, like depending, I mean,
Speak for
it's really
yourself.
hard.
Wait, are
when
you
you're
saying?
arguing-
Are you implying that
Not me.
we chose a franchise that was way too long, and we should have chosen a starter
Yes.
franchise that
Yes.
would have been for practice,
Yes.
and then we would have moved to something as fucking long as
I'm not saying
Bond
that,
six-
but you're
No, that's
saying
what I'm saying.
that's what you're
Like,
implying. That's
we
what you're
picked the wrong
implying. I'm not
fucking
saying that.
franchise to start
But I
with.
mean, remember when we started this? I mean, that was like you and I had talked about a lot about the Bond films. I know you had your conversation with Scott that kind of also was like, "Oh, we should do this." But like again, like we were going into this like, "Oh, we want to talk about movies," and we all kind of had our own headspace about what we wanted to talk about. And I also feel like the landscape has changed too, as to who we're arguing with, as far as where do you think this movie lands. Because now, you know, I get to a point now where I'm like, look at the list and I'm like, I bet Charlie wants it here, Nans is going to say it's this high, I'm going to say it's here, and I think this is probably where it'll land.
Quantum,
you know.
I wanted to touch you.
Because I figured it out. I was
You
like,
knew,
oh, you're
'cause
going to
you
say
knew,
it's
yeah,
here.
you know.
I mean, when it comes to Skyfall, I mean, I literally just recently rewatched Skyfall. I know you and I have had arguments about that movie in the past, and I was like, I think I'm curious what you were gonna say, because I was looking for things that I think you had mentioned, and I didn't really catch. There was one aspect I caught that I felt like maybe you're gonna harp on, but I'm like, I didn't think it. I don't think it negatively impacted the movie as much as I think you do. But again, I think you like to point out like how much story is king, and I think the way I look at it, it's like you're weighing the one thing against the whole rest of the movie, and I don't think it's a great way of weighing your movies, because then you get movies like The Flash where, yeah, there's definitely things that take you out of the movie because of how bad they are, and that's where I'm at with movies in general. So that's how I feel. Anyway, we're talking about pink paint because
we are we have finished Barbie. Tomorrow night we're gonna do Oppenheimer. We've ranked, we've talked a lot of bullshit. The toast is going to buckets of pink, because apparently, I don't know if it's true or not, again, just like Junior Barbie being at that bus stop.
So that
I heard something
like a
about the
costume
color
designer,
pink.
but not the designer for the movie. So I don't know why she was there.
Interesting. Okay.
But that was from a very
my
close
thing
list.
being that I saw some glimpse of another headline that was like the pink paint is in short supply because it's a Barbie movie.
Probably bullshit.
Regardless,
Most
we
likely bullshit.
wish to toast to the color pink, including all paints that are pink, because
be
ultimately
fair,
the production design was pretty.
A lot of
solid
people
on this
dressed
movie.
up. Of course, they were dressed up in pink.
Yeah, of course.
And
The
can
theater,
just
the
I
movie.
want to preference by saying, like, we talked about it and we're like, I didn't want to get to the point where we're like, what's the obvious MVP choice? Because I put this analogy. A lot of times at football games, the end of the Super Bowl, they'd say, oh, this is the MVP, and then they hand it to the quarterback. And it's like, is the quarterback really the person that won the game? Because there was this whole other team, and like there wasn't another person excelled. And we were talking about this movie, and it's like,
Greta Gerwig does bring her A game as far as the filmmaking process
Gerwig.
of the movie, regardless of how you
So
feel
does
about
Margot.
the script.
So does
And I thought Margot Robbie is
Ryan
still great. I
Gosling.
thought Ryan Gosling was still great. I thought, there were tons of actors I thought do a fantastic job. But like overall, the one striking thing that you can say about this movie is it really colors the
pink.
world in a very pink way. So it just really brings highlights to pink. So here's to pink.
To the pink paint that made this movie acceptable. Full stop.
Well said.
To pink paint.
So are we about to get off right now?
I'm a Barbie girl in a bar.